What's up, guys? Wyatt here from the Apex the podcast. We have an awesome episode for you guys here today. One of my favorites. Super excited to bring on Snip3down to the show, and also excited to bring on a brand new third member to the show. You're going to want to check out who that is. Before we get into the episode, though, quick word from our sponsors. Then right after that, Snip3down, new third, Split 2 LAN, or it's not LAN, Split 2 Pro League breakdown, heart to heart. Awesome episode. Let's get it. What's up, guys? Wyatt here from the Apex the podcast, and I am super proud to announce a very special partnership just in time for Apex LAN with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy sports, and it's super simple to use as well. All you do is you go into the Prize Picks app and you can pick from 2 to 6 players on a multitude of different sports and or esports, submit your entry, and you could have it all done in less than 60 seconds. There's so much to love about Prize Picks with quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a multitude of different selections of players and stats that you can choose from. All that comes together and makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. We know LAN is right around the corner. There's going to be plenty of teams and players that you can choose from. But other than Apex, there's a lot of other sports that you can look at. I've been looking deep into hockey and placing a lot of entries on shots on goal, and I've been having a blast. Go to prizepicks.com/theapex and use code THEAPEX for a first deposit match of up to $100. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/theapex and use code THEAPEX for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Apex the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible episode here today. We've got Eric Rona, Snip3down on the pod, hour and 15 minutes with Snip3down. It was awesome. First time on the show. That's one of the ones that we've been trying to get for a while. We finally got it. It feels good. And not only that, but we introduce a brand new member to the show, our third Jumba, my man, welcome to the Apex the podcast. This has been in the works for a little bit now.
Hello. Thank you. Yes, I'm super excited to join the team here and just, to get to be a part of this. I've been not just a listener, but you guys have been like the source of a lot of information for my videos, like the go-to place when I need to know something about the players. There was only one spot, and that was the Apex podcast. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here now.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It was one of those things where, we linked up through Jayhawk. We met at LAN. Unprompted, I was just like, I got to get this guy on the show. I'm going to ask him if he wants to be on the show. And, there was some barriers in the way, but after that was done, it was inevitable. So I'm super happy to have you on. It's going to be great. And I'm excited, man. If you guys don't know who Jumba is, go check him out on YouTube at Jumba. Is it Jumba GW?
Yeah, Jumba GW for my initials of my name. People think it's Jumbag W sometimes. I don't know, because they look
Jump
like
that boy, Jumbag W.
And
the other right there, that's my favorite Apex.
The other thing is
I'm actually just gonna start calling you Jumbag now.
No, that's good, because on Twitch, it gave when I got affiliate like 5 years ago before I ever did Apex stuff, and it gave me my abbreviation, and it gave it to me as Jumbag. So like now the emotes in my chat are like Jumbag, like OMG Jumbag, and so I will have a Jumbag W one. Like there will be.
Like if you have a good take, that's a Jumba take. If a take is a little bad, that's a Jumbag take. That's how I'm going to view it moving forward. But no, it's awesome. If you guys haven't checked out his videos, very similar to Jayhawk's long form, learning about the ALGS. Certain plays, you can learn a lot. There's a lot of insight, and you have a very good mind when it comes to this stuff. And I'm super excited to have you as a part of the show, man. It's gonna be great in the future, and we can also go on some hockey rants, which is really why I wanted you on. That's really the reason.
Exactly. I have a funny story, real quick. I didn't know if I was even gonna tell this, but I think it's good. I think it's funny. So for a while, I wanted to get invited on the pod to do an episode, and like I know Finn had like followed me. I think Enoch had followed me. I never got the invite. And like it got to the point where I'm not gonna lie, there was a period of time where I'm like, if they ask me, I'm saying no. Because like they've taken way too long to ask me. If they ask me, I'm saying like Finn like even tweeted out they should get you on when he had left. I'm like, I'm saying no. But then we had done that stream with Jayhawk at regional final. And we just kind of like connected. I was like, I like this guy way too much. I gotta go on. And now I'm here.
No, dude, it's super exciting. It's great. We tell a great story at the end of the show, so listen to that in the heart to heart about how this all came to be. But I'm very excited. And boys, honestly, we should get right into it here. That Falcons team, they're pretty good, I guess. I guess they're all right.
Yeah. I mean,
about as how you'd expect.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, except for they had a tough day 2, man.
Day 2 getting second.
That was
what the fuck is that?
Rough one. Second by 1 point. Sheesh. Fell off. That is crazy. But no, like, I mean, everybody, when you take arguably the 3 best players in the game, which like you could make the argument that they're the 3 best players and their respective roles that they're like fitting into now. Because I mean, going from like IGLing to just purely just only fragging and just having 0 put you in the right spots, like it's just that easy. And they're showing why like they are the super team that they are.
It seems like every push that they make is the right one. It seems like every rotate they make is the correct one. Every fight that they take, they're gonna win it. And even when it doesn't go their way, there's just this weird air of superiority in the comms when they're talking to one another in between lobbies, and they've deserved it. Like, right? Like they're the ones who have consistently won. If you look at the statistics, they're top 3 in kills, all 3 of them. Hal's number 1. I think Jen Burton's number 2, 0 number 3, and it's all like 28, 26, 26. They're bodying people. They're getting KP. You look at the leaderboards, they're first at 46. We'll get to SSG in a second, but then third place, 27. Like they're just clearing the rest of the table by 20 points. And for anybody who thought that the personalities were going to clash too much and it was going to mess things up, I hate to break it to you. I don't see that happening right now. Jumbo, what do you think?
No, and like it's absolutely everything you said. But the thing that I find interesting too is like we all see and thought that Hal's just going to be like the fragger. But as you mentioned, they're leading 1, 2, 3 in kills, and like they're almost tied. Like you got Jen Burton, who's supposed to be quote unquote an anchor, playing like Lifeline, playing Catalyst, playing Watson, putting up just as much kills, and then you have Zero, who's the IGL, putting up just as much kills. So like it's like there's not even really a fragger role. All of them are fitting their roles exactly what they need to do, and then putting up all the most kills of any team by far, which is just got them on a different level right now.
Like when you have that much just shooting power on one team, it's like they're fighting each other for who can do the most damage.
They literally are. They fight after
playing their roles exactly the way they need to in order to get the job done. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, after every pro league day, it's like I got more kills than you, but it was one, like Hal or Jen Burton and Zero are like, I got more kills than Hal by like 1 kill. And Hal's like, well, I did more damage. And then the script flips for day 2 where Hal's like, I carried your asses today. But then you go look and yeah, he had the most kills, but also somehow had 1,000 less damage than Zero. So it's like, it's kind of funny.
It's like those old kill race lobbies before ALGS was a thing. It's basically that's what they're doing, except they're doing it in a competitive league against the best people in the world, in the best region in the world, and they consistently are doing it every single time. And it's just great to see. This is definitely like we said it in the preview. It's hard to call any team a lock because we've seen teams, like XSET not make it, Optic not make it. And we all thought that those were a lock, but this is a lock. Like this is a lock. It's working and it's working well. Followed closely behind them is a team that a lot of people have once again said that this was the most major move made other than the Falcons move. Koifel to SSG. SSG is only 3 points off of Falcons, and they are clearing the rest of the lobby as well. Lock number 2, SSG, man, they are playing incredible. Phony is on his villain arc. He is doing his thing. Koifel is doing exactly what they expected. And it was kind of funny because that first game that they played, I think they got 19th or 20th. And then after that, it was all in the rearview mirror and they were dominant. What did you guys see from SSG?
Well, I like a few weeks ago, I remember I pulled up to Zero stream and Zainu was in there. And Zero was telling Zainu that he should be on Hound and that he was a better Hound than Koi. And then Zainu, because at the time, like, they pick up Koifel's on Hound. Zainu switched to that cat, that anchor, where, like, he's playing that, whichever one isn't playing Blood or Bang, because everybody's playing Blood Bang in that third. And then Zainu was like, oh, are you just trying to, like, bait to, like, try to, like, start beef between the team? And then time goes on, boom, we get Zainu on the Bloodhound out damaging Koifel, while Koifel is putting up just absurd numbers as well. And so it's like they're finding the way that their team is going to be working the best, and it's just going to be super exciting to see this team only get better as time goes on. And they are, I mean, everybody thought that they were going to be like the other lock. Like, it's just like a superstar team, and they're just putting it together.
Yeah, so it's I mean, those are the two teams that we looked at and we said that they were locks. They've continued to be locks, and it's working for both teams. Let's take a quick look at the results from day one and day two for anybody who didn't get to see. Day one, Team Falcons was first place with Tripods down there at second. Third place, Space Station Gaming fourth. Oxygen Esports and NRG in fifth. Elevate with a very tough day. Complexity with not their best day as well. And kind of surprisingly, Moist Esports at 10th. TSM at 11th. We will get to that in a moment because that is a big conversation. We move into A versus C. Day two. Space Station Gaming takes it by 1 point over Team Falcons. They win the day. Third place was Oblivion. Fourth place, Team Liquid. And then once again, E8 down there at the bottom with Disguised. And surprisingly, Tripods has a rebound day in a bad way. They go down to the bottom of the leaderboards, Cloud9 and Oxygen 12th and 11th respectively. So those were some of the results. I wanted to start off here with the biggest story, in my opinion, which is the POI draft. This is our first 2 days with a POI draft available. And we got to see a lot of different results from this. And there was certain picks that were being made out of comfort. There were certain picks that were being made based on, hey, teams have done well from here traditionally. Let's go there instead. And it worked out for some, didn't work out for others. Don't really take anything that Team Liquid does into account because they were landing at Dome and winning games at Skyhook. So that's fucking nuts. But Jumba, what did you see from this POI draft? Any interesting nuggets from the first 2 days with the draft in place?
Yeah, there's a few things I was thinking about, and I know you asked me before the pod, like if there was any teams that got screwed over by the draft. And so the way I kind of looked at it to understand if I felt there was is like, how did teams play on their lower pick versus their top pick? Right. And I couldn't find any correlation between like your low pick being like where you're like you would expect where your lower pick, you're going to get less points. And then your top pick, you're going to get all your points on. Right. And that didn't happen at all. Really, right? I mean, I know I'm naming the top two teams we just went through here, but like Falcons, SSG were dropping banger sets on both sides. But then you even had like OXG or CCE on day one, and on their lower bottom 30 picks, were putting up 20 plus points, right? And then, funny enough, on their picks that they had in like the top 10, they were going ahead and dropping low points sometimes, right? So that was one thing that I expected. Another team was like Weave, a team who came through Split 2 qualifier. They were interesting. On day two, they had first pick, went SkyWest Trials and got 8 points. Then on Storm Point with their 40th overall pick at Devastated Coast, picked up 25 points to get them like a 12th overall finish, I think, for the day. Which, like, again, SkyWest Trials, you think, oh, we're going to secure a ton of points here having the best POI on World's Edge. And it just goes to show you the teams who understand the macro, understand the zone calls, understand what to do from certain POIs and how others might not play comfortably from those, right? SkyWest isn't going to get you a top 3 placement. But the last thing about the POI draft I saw that was pretty cool that happened today, like the day we're recording it, they just drafted for this upcoming weekend. And that it was that in EMEA, Alliance took Trident, the POI, right between Wall and Northpad. And every other team avoided picking Northpad because they didn't want Alliance dropping, looting quick, hopping in the Trident, and just sending it on them. So I thought that was interesting that teams can still bully other teams out of POIs just by their presence of who they are.
And people thought we were going to lose some form of contesting. This is just a different way to do it. It's over a draft system. E, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say that overall, I think it is 100% a brilliant move and a great step for the direction of Apex. And it's taken something that was viewed as a pretty big negative and has turned it and it's just added another dimension to the game. And I just absolutely love what it's done for how it's just not it makes it way less repetitive. And it's not you're not going to see the same team landing from the same POI doing the same rotates all season long. It's going to be refreshing, and it's going to show okay, you got to be able to be the best from wherever you have to end up playing. And even with that being said, it's still with them having the draft happening at the beginning of the week, it still gives these teams all week to prepare and to be able to play from it. And so I just think it's an incredible move. And I noticed something was is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I just don't see there being any case for this not being a positive change.
The only thing I can say negatively about it is I will throw out there that the beginning of these matches, probably the first 4 minutes are just incredibly boring, which sucks. But then at the same time, this is also the first few weeks of the draft. And like you just said, with teams bullying other teams off of other POIs, there's going to be congestion in other areas, right? So there's probably going to, as time goes on, we're going to see changes to where it might not be as bad in the early portions of games. Overall, I think it's positive, like Enoch said, because it's made scrims way better to watch throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
You actually want to tune into scrims to see what's going on. And I think it's going to show, like we said, the best teams will rise to the top no matter what position they're coming through. Look at the leaderboard right now. We've got Falcons and Space Station up top. That's what everybody had. But yeah, overall, I think it's going to be good. I will say, though, a little boring first 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern with this is that there's just nothing to watch now, and from a spectator point of view, that might hurt it. But I want to quickly just go touch upon you mentioned Liquid coming from Dome, going to Skyhook, winning games, dropping 30 points in those 2 games, and I think that it was something that we didn't realize as much is a team like Liquid, who's dropped that launch site for the longest time. They get Dome, I think, at 38th or around the bottom 3 picks, right? That's where Dome has been going. And they can do that because the macro from Dome is going to be very similar from launch site, being that they're right next door. Right. So, yeah, so that's something I didn't actually ever consider beforehand, that you can pick POIs close to where you're comfortable to landing and have very similar macro and probably play the same as before. And they get all the other benefits of the POI draft, which is really cool. But I want to ask E real quick, from someone who's a rank grinder, number 2 right now and everything. How do you think this would be if it was in ranked? Because I think that the rank system should be very indicative of what ALGS is. So do you think it'd be something positive for ranked?
If there would be a way that you could implement it in a quick manner, it just I just don't see a way of that being done. Cause you would to do a true snake draft all the way through of all the different things. That would just be a decent amount of time in between because you'd be having to do it while you're loading into the game. And so if there was a way to feasibly make that happen in that quick of a time, I'd be for it.
What if there's no draft, but just the predetermined drop spots? Instead of picking where you go, you just get a random drop spot.
You just randomly just drop?
And you play from there.
I think that would be interesting. I think I would be in favor of that. Because regardless of where you land in ranked, you should be able to make it work. And honestly, I would say one of the worst parts is like it just like sometimes when you're playing, you just cannot get like an uncontested fight. And then even when you win that contest, you might get third partied where you're just like not ready. And so like having an aspect of like, okay, I don't have to worry about getting contested. I'm just gonna be able to get loot and then fight. It could be good. And like it would, as you said, model what it's gonna, it would be like not exactly the same, but with the way that you described it, just being like random and it not being the draft as like completely as it would match up with competitive. I think that would be a nice little like middle ground that you would be able to make work for sure.
Yeah. I think it'd be so good. They tried in the slingshot, and I think it would just be so good for keeping teams alive and just getting like better end games and everything like that in the ranked lobbies too.
Yeah, I think I would vote positive change on that. And at bare minimum, it would be cool to see something like that happen, or at least like a split or two, just to see what it would be like. Because like a split isn't too long. I believe it's like around like 40 days.
Yeah.
And so even if it would be like considered bad, it wouldn't be too long of a time.
Yeah, I think it'd be a sick change.
Yeah, we'll see what they do in the future, because I do think that would be an interesting idea. I would love to do the snake draft thing, but like you said, it'd probably take a good amount of time, and it would probably just take away from the overall experience. But nonetheless, POI draft first 2 days in the belt, and we're gonna kind of see throughout the rest of this split how things change, because I suspect the way it starts is going to be drastically different than how it ends. So we'll see how all of that goes. Okay, moving on from the POI draft, second big story here. TSM. Massive change in the offseason. Imperial Hal, their IGL, he obviously moves on. And Verhulst reps pick up Zapto, and they also get Coach Talmadge over there. And throughout scrims, there was a lot of talk of who's going to end up being the IGL. Is it going to be reps? Is it going to be Verhulst? Who's going to take it? Are they going to co-IGL? What's going to happen here? Well, nothing really happened here. And it resulted in a pretty tough day for TSM overall. They get 11th on the day. And there was just not a whole lot going their way. There was actually a lot of points given up in the process. I did watch a hefty amount of TSM. Did you guys see anything that stood out to you? Because I got some notes, but I wanted to see if I'm on the same track as you guys.
Yeah, I just like, it's definitely like the IGLing right now is where they need to find a consistent voice and what I would almost call like a consistent identity of how they're going to be playing the game. Just in this first week, I mean, I want to say like 11th, while it's not what they want, like being that it is like their first week and everything, there was some good things there. There was some things they just need to iron out, and it's not over for them. Like, it's not going to be that tough to pull back. But yeah, like there was just too many points where they were kind of passive and they weren't making the pushes they needed to. And then there was opposite of where they'd be too aggressive. They'd get one knock and even a full kill and then screaming with panic, like, we need to finish this, and dying for it and throwing games that they should have won with great zone positioning that they just lost. And I found that was because like there was some key moments where I'd see Verhulst making calls and both Reps and Zapto would almost ignore him. And he even addressed it at one point. He said, like, I'm making suggestions and you guys aren't listening. I think it's just ironing that out. They got Talmadge as a coach, and I know he was addressing that stuff too, to Zap and Reps. And I think that it's something that now that they're aware, they'll be able to work on. I'd love to see how the next few days go.
Yeah, it really just, I would say, is they were going into it of saying like, okay, let's see how we can make this co-IGLing work. And the result is what everybody was expecting. And I really hope that Big E like takes over those, like the reins and just like steps up and just takes over as like that main IGL. Cause like you need to have one in those situations just so you can just get all of your team on the same page quickly. And just say, okay, call is made, go. Not call is made, how do we feel? Okay, we're going to do that. Because the amount of time that it takes to get like the opinions of your like squad mates is the amount of time that makes a good play become a bad one. And they made an excellent showing of that. And yeah, Big E, I think it's his time to step up and make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of calls being made by Zap too. Like Zap was calming a lot, and I don't know if that's something he naturally wants to do or if it's because he feels like there's a lack of that IGL presence in there. And that would be fair. Like imagine you go into this new team and all of a sudden it's like, do we have a plan? Like there's a lot of times where they were going into end games and just not having any clue what they wanted to do. There was one on World's Edge, I think it was game 2, where they're on top of a building in Skyhook, and immediately after they jump down and die, Zapto goes, there was no plan there. Like, we need to make a plan, or there was no decision made, something along those lines. And he's correct. Like, there was just not a whole lot of decision making throughout their entire day. And it's kind of weird because it seems like Verhulst has the calls, but he doesn't have the confidence. It seems like Reps has kind of that Hal confidence where he can be a little bit of an asshole, get on your ass a little bit, but he doesn't say the calls until after the game is over. And then Zapto's somewhere in the middle where he's trying to like help out as best he can. And what that ends up doing is it just leads to a convolution of a lot of ideas being placed, but nothing actually being done. And so we'll have to see what goes down throughout the rest of the split. Obviously this is day 1, and like you said, Jumba, it's only an 11th place. That's not that bad, all things considered, because they could be in a position like E8, which we'll get to here in a second. Right now it could be, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it is not one you want to be in.
It could be a lot worse. So they do have a crossroads coming up. The biggest throw was game 5 on Storm Point, where they have a very solid positioning inside Jurassic Park in the building. It wasn't going to pull there, but if they stay for a little bit longer or try to find a rotate outside of that building that didn't involve going to that fence line, then maybe they have a little bit better of a game, and maybe we're looking at this a bit differently. But what they end up doing is going up to the gate, going up to the fence. They open up. I think Verhulst gets a knock, and immediately, I think Reps, before they had even gone up there, said, do we know what's happening to our left? Do we know what's happening to our left? Zap scans for the left, but it doesn't reach. So they go in there. He gets immediately knocked, and Evan had the wall the whole time. He doesn't throw the wall until he's already knocked, and then it kind of it's just over at that point. And so there's just those little miscues, little mistakes that when Hal is around don't happen as often. They still happen, but they don't happen as often, and there's more of a decisive, there's like a plan. There's a plan there. It just seemed like a lot of their plan was kind of, off the seat of your pants, and we'll figure out where it goes from there. I'm very excited to see how they play coming in the next few weeks, because like I said, this is a big crossroads for TSM, and I want to see them succeed. Obviously, we had Evan on the show. He was great, and I think he can, like Enoch said, he can be that guy. He just needs more of that mean streak in him to be able to get on their ass a little bit and be like, hey, shut up. This is what we're doing. We're doing it now. And not worry so much about if it's right or if it's wrong, but just taking those reins and trying to make it work.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was getting at with like consistent voice and identity, because of those exact points. That exact game 2 is the biggest one where even as Enoch was saying, there was a little bit too much of, should we do this? What about we do that? And they're the ideas, but he's not like being direct. And that's what the team needs. Every IGL, every coach I've talked to has said like they want all their players to be able to have those ideas, be able to calm, be able to like see the game with like knowledge. They don't want them just being brainless, right? So I don't think the comms from Zapto are actually a necessarily bad thing, but there needs to be a point where if Verhulst is saying, we got to take this spot on the hill right now, and he's saying, no, wait, he has to be like, no, this is what we're doing. We're going there right now. And that's what Zach used to do for Zap, right? Like not just for Zap in general, just for E8. Like Zach is someone who micros a lot. If you listen to all his comms, he is like, we're going to go here. You're going to hit this cash. You're going to push this team. We're going to take that balloon. Like it's very laid out, and it's like, and he's strong about it. And if they give him information, Zach is very open to taking information and making calls. But if he feels like, no, this is what I want to do, he will flat out say, shut up, listen to me, and we're going here. And that's what I think TSM needs right now.
Yeah, so just a rocky start for TSM. I don't want to say it's a bad day necessarily, because an 11th place isn't the worst thing in the world. It's not going to, make your chances for land go kapoof. But it is, going into this season, this split, knowing what's going on with TSM and the big changes that have been made, we do have to point this out moving forward. So we'll see what TSM does to bounce back. Let's move on into some other teams that were struggling here. Team Elevate. This one was tough. This was a tough 2 days for Team Elevate. Back-to-back 1-point days. A lot of frustration with all three members. Going through the VODs, there's a ton of little tiny mistakes. And it's crazy because in scrims, they're one of the better teams. They have been playing so well in scrims, and you thought going into this that was going to show at least a little bit. It never showed. It just never showed. What did you guys see from E8 on their first 2 match days?
I mean, some days you just have days where just nothing goes right, and some days you have those days back to back.
It's a tough time to have it. It's a tough time to have it. Yeah, I mean, your point is perfect. It makes sense because there was just so many little things that they were doing wrong. Like they would have good positioning all game, and then one little mistake would just cause things to just go awry. There was one where they're sitting inside Skyhook, and Slayer scans and sees that there's a catalyst by herself underneath the building, and Zach does not want to do it at first. Finally, he says, okay, just pop ult and we'll go down there. Slayer thinks that there's a smoke behind him. There's no smoke. Like, there's no smoke at all. He gets just sniped from the bottom of the building. They get him down, and then they're able to just throw nades. Zach and Luxford are basically stuck. They can't really do anything else. They get pushed on. There's another one where they're using a catalyst wall going through the water on Storm Point. And Slayer's like, should I pop ult here? Should I pop ult here? And Zach had already calmed out that they were being mirrored. So at that point, I would assume, obviously I'm not in their shoes, but I would assume if you're being mirrored and you know that you're going to come to the end of this wall, probably want to pop ult to get ready to fight there because they're going to be right there. Doesn't happen. He eventually pops it, but it just seemed like it was a little too late, and they just weren't able to get into that fight fully. And then finally, their last game out of both days, they finally get a good, consistent fight. They win it. They're awesome. And then they get thirded. So it just nothing was going right for E8. And you could tell that there was a lot of frustration for Zach because, he's just coming off of, making it to a final Sunday. And it's just a lot of frustration, man. It sucks to see. And I want to see them bounce back. But you got to assume if they've got any chance to making it to split 2 LAN, it's going to take a very high, consistent number of points.
So basically I was even actually talking about it with Jayhawk before. And when we get to talk about DSG, I'll say they're a team where I'd say they had a bad day and maybe don't have to worry as much. Should be a little concerned, but not worry as much. Whereas E8, 2 back-to-back 1 points, they have to worry. The cutoff for LAN last split was 80 points, and that was over 7 days. They essentially, with getting 2 points out of their first 2 days, people might call me dramatic because it's the first week in a pro league. Their chances of making LAN now are slim because they got to pretty much get 78 points or 80 points in 5 days now, granted that they make regional final. And so that means that they have to average 16 points, or that's 4th place per day going forward if they want to get themselves to just the 12th spot of LAN. So yeah, it's almost like if you're a football fan, you only got 16 game seasons. It's not like baseball with 186 or hockey in the NBA with 80 plus. You have every single day matters, and now it's kind of do or die for them every single day.
I really hope they just
they're really just they're quite literally one bad game away from it. I mean, one bad day from it just being full chalked.
Yeah, no, it's
done.
In order to make LAN, you can only have one bad day, really, and to be able to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. Back-to-back 1-pointers, and really just to start off your split that way, especially for a team that as we talked about, they look so good. Nobody expected them to come out and drop back-to-back 1-point days. But even with that being said, they still, if they play as good as they can and they just show up and show out the rest of the season, their land chances are still there, but like quite literally, one bad day, wiped.
Yeah.
Unless they just first.
Yeah, unless they become the super team.
Yeah. Even then, it'll be close. Like they'll be cutting it close, which would be crazy. But I really hope they can rip it and figure it out. But right now, it's looking grim. It's looking real grim. And that moves us over into our other notable team getting like a real bad day. Disguised DSG. It was rough. It was a rough one. We got some old Designful, and you know, when you get those clips, it is funny to like listen to them at the time, but then you realize it's a lot of stress. I mean, they've been the last two events, they've been about one fight away from potentially winning a LAN, and then that's a lot of pressure to put on them. And I think there was a lot of moves that could have been made in the offseason that might be weighing over their head. That might be a stretch to say, but Design did trial with TSM. Did you guys see anything from DSG that stood out? Because to me, like you said, Jumba, it just seemed like it was a bad day. There was just a lot of mini mistakes. I didn't see like that major thing that made me think that they weren't going to do well, because they were still winning team fights when they were getting into them, and they like had a good amount of ability to fight. They were fine. It was just sometimes getting into position to get into those team fights that was causing them a lot of the trouble.
I think it was just sometimes teams are going to have a bad day. And there was 2 skyhook pulls, which, I mean, we addressed that a team like Liquid came from an even further POI in the map, and not like, I think Disguise was landing at thermal, so they know the macro from there, right? So like all around, like, you know, like they have the ability to still perform on those points, but bad day combined with not great pulls on World's Edge, like probably just didn't set them up for success. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Now, as I was saying, like when I was talking to Jayhawk, he did mention to me that from last split, teams like Xset, Optic, like even one day in the bottom 5 was hard to fight back for, that they didn't get into LAN. So it's a little bit of something that's going to probably be on their heads now, but it's not impossible. Like for them, like one day, like I said, they still got 6 now to put up the points they need, and they can find themselves there. They're a good team. They've done it before.
Are they going to end top 5? Probably not. Do I still think they're headed to LAN? 100%.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I think it was just a lot of small stuff too. Like there was one where Designful portals underneath Grandma's house on World's Edge, and he says out loud, "There's traps." The second Timmy comes through, trips the trap. Everything's just dead at that point. And they still almost pulled that one off, because Designful fried all 3 members. I forgot what team they were fighting. He fried all 3 members, and Timmy was just missing some shots. Like he hits a few of those shots, it might have turned the tide of the fight, because Designful had the high ground. He was up on the roof, and all of the other members of the other team were down on the bottom, and he was ripping them with the Havoc. So there was a good chance they could have turned that one around. Enemy went down, I think, a little early, and but it was really Timmy tripping that trap. And then also they were flying in to the train station on World's Edge, and as they land, I think Timmy just missed the opening to go inside the building, and then he just gets fried from the team surrounding all the way around. They were able to res him, bring him back in, and then once again kind of doesn't land in the right spot, throws things off, and it makes it tough for them. And it was just a lot of small stuff like that, but they were still getting kills. They were still winning some fights. It was just a weird day. The one thing I worry about is just the comms part of it. We're getting Designful from early split 1, and he was able to really bounce back. And I was very impressed with how he was able to kind of reel himself in a little bit. I think he can do it again. It's just, I think when you play that first day, you want to do well on the first day. You don't want to get off on the wrong foot. It can be stressful. We've seen in the past, like he can kind of lose his head a little bit. I think he'll be able to reel it in. I think everything will end up being okay. They're just too good of a team for me to think that it's not going to work out well. And I think I land very similar to with Enoch, where they're probably not getting top 5, but top 12, I think that's easy. I think that's easy. So that's DSG. I did kind of want to go into some teams that were teams with a question mark a little bit. Maybe a team that did well one day, didn't do well another, or maybe a team that just kind of finished middle of the pack that you expected to do a little bit better. I can kind of start here. I want to start with Oxygen Esports. I have to admit something, or not really admit it, but just bring it up. Frex hit me with a big fuck you on Twitter. But then he followed it up with a fuck me. That was kind of how their match days went. The first day I clicked less than on kills for him. I didn't think he was going to be able to hit it on Prize Picks. Use code the Apex at prizepicks.com. And he crushed it. He threw me a fuck you for giving him the less than. I respected that. And then the next day I smashed the more than, and he didn't get it. And then he threw a fuck me back at him. Once again, I respect that. But that's a perfect way to describe the 2 match days. One day they were doing really, really good. They got 4th place. The next day, I think they got, what was it? 11th? Yeah, they got 11th. So, Oxygen, they're an interesting team. Obviously, they bring Frex into the mold. We'll see how it works out. They have had days where they look great, games where they look great. They had a first place with 12 kills, and then you have a match day where things just don't seem to go their way. That's my team that I still have a little bit of a question mark with. You guys got one that stands out to you?
You go ahead first. You go ahead
okay.
first.
I was going to say a team that I am excited to see and like with their place on the standings. Yes, they are a team that has played 2 match days. But at number 7, you got CCE, which is a team that is coming out of Challenger Circuit. And that is one of the few teams that does not have Bangalore and Bloodhound. They rip the Loba Rampart Bangalore. And that is a team that, as someone who's played against them, it is not fun. And I think a lot of Pro League teams, I think as the season goes on, we're going to see Pro League teams that are they're just not going to like CCE, because playing against a Rampart and somebody who's as talented on that character as Trev Sachs, that boy Trev, when he has a sniper and a Rampart wall, you're not taking an evac. You are not taking nothing. You're getting sniped out of the air. You're like, that boy Cobra is on Bangalore. He's going to have any care package gun he wants. That boy gets. Thankfully, Wingman is no longer on the ground, which is a huge nerf to CCE, which I want to say, because that team is going to be center zone every game, and they're going to have every care package gun, and they're going to have Rampart walls with a sniper. They're going to consistently put up points, and I think they're going to be a menace to Pro League teams as the season goes on, and that they're just not going to be liked.
I remember hearing about Trev Stack's sniper and being like, okay, like he's probably good. Like, people are talking about it. He's probably good. And people were coming to my chat during Pro League qualifiers. I was doing a watch party, and they're like, you got to make sure you watch Trev. And I was like, okay, we'll watch him. And then I saw Trev's got a Kraber. I'm like, okay, Trev's got a Kraber. Let's watch this. And I knew that people were saying he was good at sniping, but I wasn't expecting him to hit like 3 back-to-back shots, followed up by a collat, and then like 2 more. Like, I'm like, he just went 8 for 7 shots there. How is that even possible? And like through the Rampart walls, like you said. So he's like headshotting everyone, just getting knocks left, right, and center. Ridiculous. And
he's gonna get that Kraber every time too, because dude, that Lobo Rampart combo, dangerous.
Yeah, and the team I was going to bring up was also CCE, because, when you see them do good, it's like they belonged here. Like, we were talking about this, and they were a team that was probably one of the best in Pro League qualifiers and didn't make it in because of getting griefed by Evolution, who was trying to get tripods into Pro League for Split 1. So, like, they belonged there. They were one of the best all the way through and lost their opportunity on the last game, game 6 of that last qualifier. And, now seeing them in here, it's where they were meant to be. The second day, things happen. But what did they finish in the second day? Do we know?
It was 13th. First. Yeah.
They placed 7th.
Day
1 on day 1.
13th.
And then 13th, day 2. So, like, not like the greatest placements. And, like, obviously, like, their placement in the top 10 definitely has more to do with the fact that they've played 2 days, while we have B and C, who have only played 1 match day respectively. So we'll probably see them drop. But as this team gets more time in the league, it's gonna be not fun times for everybody else.
And top 20 regional final is something I can see for them, for sure.
Yeah. It was people saying, I don't know if it was Enoch. You said people are not going to like Trev Stacks, right? Like it's just, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to start any drama, but I'm pretty sure when I was watching the E8, the VODs, I'm pretty sure Slayer was already like, this guy's so annoying. Like just having the Rampart there, like it's annoying, dude. Like it is.
No, he's just like it's just a menace to the lobby. Like your lobby and your end game is going to play out different when you have a Rampart and Godspot with a sniper and 10,000 hours in Kovacs. Like your lobby's going to play different. And as a controller player, you are not going to like him.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is what it is. But okay, well, ladies and gents, let's go over let's go over the overall standings real quick, just to run through this thing real quick before we send it on down to Snip3down. First place, obviously, we have Falcons, and second place, we have SSG. They are just clear from the rest of the pack. They are just 46 and 43 points, respectively. Then in third, we've got NRG. Fourth and fifth, tied, we've got Oxygen and Tripods. Sixth, we've got Weave. Then seventh, we have CCE, UCX. Eighth, we've got Oblivion. Ninth, we've got Team Liquid, but they've only played one day. Keep that in mind. 10th, Vanity. 11th, Flat. And 12th, LG. So those would be the teams going to land right now. Some notable teams on the outside. Furia right there sitting 1 point behind LG for that final spot. Moist and TSM 17th and 18th. Cloud9 at 19th. Complexity down there at 21st. And then down at the very, very bottom, we've got DSG and E8. So those are some of the notable teams around the league as we stand right now. Keep in mind, some of those teams have played 2 days while others have played one. Okay, it's time. Eric Rona, Snip3down. He is going to be joining the pod for the very first time. It was an awesome interview with Snipe. We go through everything, including some of his Halo days. It was awesome to have him on. We really appreciate it. And enjoy the interview with Snip3down. Let's hit a quick ad and send it on down to Eric Rona. All right, everybody. We have on a very, very, very special guest today. Eric Rona, Snip3down, joins the pod for the first time. Snipe, how are you doing? How's everything going?
Yeah, everything's going really well, honestly. Just kind of keeping busy, getting some other things done since I'm not in this Pro League split right now. So just kind of set my priorities in a couple other areas. And, it's been going well. Got some exciting stuff coming up. So, happy to be here and joined by you fellas and ready for what's to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that kind of leads directly into like the first question is like, what's the plan right now? Because obviously you're not playing this split, but you're still with FaZe. There's potential for maybe coming back in. There's potential for maybe sticking with like the commentary game. Like, do you have any strict plan or are you kind of just playing it as it goes out?
Yeah, I think this is like one of those stages of life where, it's easy to keep 1 foot in, 1 foot out of a lot of different areas, when I've always been of the mindset of you can't really excel in those areas if you're in a bunch of different things at the same time. So like, I think right now, unless I had team opportunities for this split. There were options. There were a lot of people that did want to play with me, and I know I've done it. I did it with Mac and Slurp. I did it with Panders and Zera, and it just from the beginning it was kind of a risk, and it was like it either works or like it's going to be a long split, and that's what it was for kind of both those. So for me right now, I mean, I'm focusing on kind of the content side. I got the whole After Hours podcast going on that we're trying to do after these, Pro League days, because it's fun to keep the content going on those days that are hot. And then it's allowing me to kind of pursue some entrepreneurial things on the side, which it's what I went to college for, marketing entrepreneurship degree. And it's impossible to do that kind of stuff while competing professionally. And that's kind of what I was referring to, of half in, half out. It's like you can't run something while you're a professional gamer. It's just too much of a time commitment. So now I have, those days of scrims and all that to kind of focus on some areas I've been lacking on that I've always wanted to do.
So can we get a sneak peek of like what you got, what you're cooking up?
Yeah. So on it, dude, there's actually been a lot of things that have just been kind of coming my way. Just in the 2 weeks, it's kind of crazy how that works out, because it wasn't there before. And I said that there's certain things, like whether it's like advisory positions on company, because if I'm not competing with FaZe, like FaZe needs to field a roster, they're a partner team, and I've been trying to help them because they did really well by me field, team. So I got a couple teams in mind there that I can't really dive too deep into. I mean, Tripods is obviously one of them that is, high on the list of I would love if they played under FaZe if I'm not. Good storylines there. And for me, I mean, I've wanted to work, whether it's in game development of being like a play tester that actually not just like a play tester that comes on, but someone that could maybe even, help with fixing some design things or smoothing out games or really like technical things with the games that I could, maybe attach my name to that. Or I got me and Follett are actually, I'm going to Chicago tomorrow to work on this, writing up a full business plan of kind of what we're trying to do. And it's a potential like retail store area that I can't get too deep into, but it's right in the alley of kind of just things I enjoy and he enjoys, and he's a hard worker. So good person to have by my side to kind of push me, because I'm like a product of my environment. Other people are working hard. I want to work hard around them. So yeah, just can't get too deep into it. I like having like official plans and things in motion before it kind of, talking about it too much.
I appreciate you letting us know that. That's super exciting.
Yeah. That's so cool. And we've had Fallout on before, and we can definitely vouch for like his ability to be like he's just extremely excited about everything he does. So like, I think pairing up with a guy like that, that's what you want to do. I think that's where you want to be. You mentioned Tripods potentially fielding a team with FaZe, even if you're not playing, which I think is a very interesting opportunity, because the Tripod story is crazy. And I think you might have been scrimming with them today. Just kind of talk about like some of that opportunity with FaZe to potentially bring in a team to Apex, even if you're not really a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, FaZe has done me so well since the very beginning. And I've talked, they've had their ups and downs as an organization, but I can only speak from my personal experience. And every single thing that they said that they were willing to offer me, going back to Halo and then building an Apex, everything has been truthful. Even in times when I didn't think that like they had any need to, stick on to me or could have gone separate ways that might have even been better in terms of team situations or whatever. But they're very loyal, and they just, I want to help them just field as good of a roster. And Tripods has history. They were with Nick Merckx, big part of FaZe obviously as well. So they supported them, and they came to me and wanted to make sure I was okay with them even like supporting that roster. And like, even that alone is, whether I'm okay with it or not, like they could have still done it, but just even reaching out is a pretty cool thing that you don't see too often from orgs. They kind of move in their own way silently. So I think Tripods would be a great storyline, kind of working back into the FaZe mix after Nick Merckx left. It's like, how much of attachment do they still have? And then they clutched up EWC. They had a pretty good first week in Pro League, like good first day, pretty rough second day. But I don't know what they're looking for. I'm not in on those talks of salaries or anything like that. So maybe, that might not line up. But I think that both parties like would have interest. I couldn't see why they wouldn't be interested in FaZe. They were with them before, and I'm sure a lot of orgs possibly hit them up after their qualification. But if I can't field them, an NA roster, like, I mean, who knows where else you can look. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in different regions. I don't know if FaZe would ever go to other areas, but yeah, I want to help them field a good roster that fits within, what they're looking for.
Well, FaZe had a pretty serious EU team for for CSGO. So, they're definitely open to probably searching into other regions if the right opportunity is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be cool to see FaZe, to go to Europe or, APAC or something. And just, if they're just looking to have a team in the skin in the game, then there's some really good teams in other regions that aren't working with anyone.
Yo, low key 07. If they still don't have a team, that's definitely one of the best EU teams I can think of in terms of like the like, I feel like Nasky out of all like the guys on EU would fit that FaZe
role type of
that FaZe.
Little bully personality,
just like he's like, I'm the best, don't give a fuck, like shut the fuck up, like that's just
yeah. Funny story about that. I actually even pitched to Nasky if I was gonna, because there was a chance that I was taking last split off where I played with Zara and Pan, and I pitched to Nasky like, hey, like I think your team would be a solid option to represent FaZe, and he was super excited. I told him like, don't talk too much about that, but if I wasn't, I mean, I absolutely would have put his team on the radar. They were really hot, and I said the same thing. I said Nasky would be a good representation.
And for a team that gets to finals lobbies at LANs, like Nasky has the experience. If that guy wasn't contested every time he went to a finals lobby, he would be placing really high every single LAN, because he's made match point doing it, and he doesn't lose contests. So He's
impressive.
Good team there.
What they place? They got a bad placement, right? This past week.
It wasn't great.
16.
But they won the
16?
contest.
It was 16.
There was no contest though. Like
they contested EA.
Did they, no. I'm talking about at not LAN during this first week of Pro League. Really, Nasky's team had they had a rough first week. I'm pretty sure. I saw him tweeting. I don't know what they got, but
yeah, I'd have to look that up. But I will say, if you do get Nasky in 07, just make sure that when you guys do eventually go to LAN, you get him a chair that maybe you can strap him down into. So he doesn't hop out mid-game, because there was a few times throughout that entire situation where he just didn't want to sit down. Like, the guy was just, I got to get up. I got to celebrate right now, which is what you want. You want personality like that, but you also want to wait till maybe the game is like over, you know?
Yeah, I said the same thing. I'm not a fan of that, how that was done. I mean, if they died and then he stood up and started talking shit to E8 or whatever, I mean, that would have been funny. That would have been great. I would have been fine with that because it can keep his team hyped up. But standing up in the middle of like the contest and then getting thirded, I'm not happy.
The 1v2 by Hardeki with Nasky just not even on the setup.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, they're all AFK. Like, Hardeki walks up and everyone's just standing there. No one's playing.
Yeah, I know. Like, they were all just screaming.
Yeah, it's the most lame 1v2 ever.
It was funny.
Hey, but they definitely like. I feel like when it comes to like Org's investment, it's about who can get the most attention, because like that's really what everybody's vying for. And you cannot make the case that Nasky did not get attention at LAN.
He got
no.
Yeah, he's in there too. He's always in like the trash talk Twitters, starting half of them. He's content, and it's good to see that from the EU side, because they really don't get like that much representation overall on the grand scheme of things. So it's kind of shifted to APAC and NA now. Like, EU's kind of like really further down that list than they were at the start.
So where would you place, in your opinion, where would you put EU in terms of like if you were going to rank the regions, where are you putting everybody? Because it used to be, it was like, okay, you have EU and NA, and like they're the top dogs, undisputed. But I just don't think that's the case anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm putting EU third or fourth at this point in the regions like that are really left. I mean, I still have NA on top. I just think that the overall quality stems deeper than the other regions. And then it was APAC North was Strafing Flame, correct?
No, South.
That's South. That's
yeah.
why okay. Well, then APAC South is second, because like that team has produced a lot of good teams. And I still consider the DZ and Moist rosters like as kind of essentially from that region, so I'm going to still put that region as in terms of representation second. Honestly, a pretty close second, if not right up there in terms of overall top quality. I mean, Legends, Moist, and like Zero coming from that region. I mean, that's arguably three of the top 10, arguably top 5 like overall teams, that especially recently. So, but yeah, still NA, APAC South, and I think EU, and then APAC North probably.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned going into, kind of the commentary side of things. And you mentioned the Apex After Hours podcast with Fallout as well. And stuff like this, I mean, I feel like you doing commentary would be very big for Apex moving forward. I feel like you just have a knack for it, a voice for it. And like you just broke down with Apex South and EMEA right now, the regions, it's just something I think that comes kind of natural to you. Would you consider moving forward, kind of moving more towards that commentary side to kind of open up and expand the viewers of Apex, and kind of, is it something you enjoy, I guess?
I enjoy analysis, I think, a lot more than I do straight up commentary. Like when it comes to being on like the desk and doing play by play or anything like that, like I don't, that's a lot. That's a lot of like just constant energy output. Those days are extremely long, but I love breaking down games, because like a way I've always looked at games has been a very top down, like I'm almost like an above the map, seeing how everyone moves. So watching rotates, that's very intriguing to me, how teams choose to move. And I feel like I have a good mind and way to read that. So if anything like that's more in my alley. If it was like full straight up commentating, I'm not sure. I might have to try it out, but I've never really like the way like Wig does it and things like that. Like I can't replicate that. That's just like not fully my personality, I guess.
Maybe like color guy. You let the play by play do his thing, and then you just kind of go off of like, this is why they're doing this, that rotate, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've done stuff like that at Halo tournaments in the past where I've had really good play-by-play analysis. I think like Golden Boy has killed it as like play-by-play and Bravo and people like that. And they make it a lot easier for me to jump in and talk about like how a play happened really quickly, or like, did you see that push and like how they blocked off this and that. That is right up my alley. So if I had someone to pair with, I think that could be of interest. I mean, it'd be kind of crazy to be on a stage like they have at these ALGS events. I can't imagine how Peep was feeling his first time hosting on that stage. And it's exciting to see. So I mean, that's definitely, I'd consider it, definitely.
I think.
Yeah, I for one, I would say that I would absolutely love to see you on like the main broadcast doing some sort of analysis. I think that you would be an absolute one of like the better fits for that role, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think
maybe they'll hit me up now that I'm not playing. I don't know.
Yeah, like because like the way I see it is like with traditional sports, when you take like esports is still like pretty young when you compare it to other sports, right? But you see like players like Shaq and Chuck go on to like be like these analysts, and like Snip3down's the legend who's been doing this for so long. Now moves into the analyst role, right? Like it's kind of like the natural transition we haven't seen yet because there's not many esports pros that have had a long career like yours yet.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And that's kind of like, even the whole after hours thing that we're doing, I mean, that's kind of what essentially we're trying to bring is like, and that's why we like getting pros on, whether they just played or we want to avoid people that obviously did poorly. But it's good to get someone like that's recent, that just played, can like, talk a little trash or just be a little more candid to everyone rather than their traditional, like, because if players get interviewed on the Play Apex stream, like they don't usually, I mean, Zero didn't care. He gave no shits. But most people are really like, laid, like more reserved. They're kind of nervous, but we want to give them that comfortability of we're fellow pros. You can just like relax, kick it with us, talk a little trash, and we're going to, no one's going to take it too serious, hype it up, but just kind of brings a little more friendly side. I don't even know, but it's just, it felt like it was lacking a little bit. And I enjoy doing that. So whether, I think it's just fun. And I do 100% agree that that's like a stage that I could see myself going to.
Anything to make the game bigger, and I think that you being a part of it would definitely make it bigger. I kind of wanted to go back and go through your like the genesis of your career, and for people who don't know where you came from, I don't know how they wouldn't, but for people who don't know, kind of how you got started into gaming, your first entry into competitive gaming, and then that transition over into Apex.
Yeah, I mean, holy, this is going to be quite a story. I mean, I started in my parents' basement, went to my friend's basement, my other friend's basements. We had wires running all over the house to connect us together. And honestly, that's where it began, and it doesn't exist anymore. It was just these LAN parties and sleepovers that you would have with 4, 8, 12 of your friends, and everyone just rotates in, rotates out, big pizza parties. And it was just a way for us all to kind of hang out, get along, and play a game that we got addicted to. And that was Halo 1. And that just propelled, that was the first game I fell in love with. Like, played a lot of games like Smash and Zelda and a lot of games like GoldenEye was the first shooter game that I really like dived into. That's super OG at this point, N64. But yeah, I started telling my parents about like these live events that you can compete at, started going to local tournaments, quickly became known during Halo 2 because I was winning all these local tournaments in Indiana, and got noticed by a bunch of pros. Started grinding ranked. Halo 2 rank system was one of the hardest. I got quickly really noticed for my hit percentage. It was just very accurate, high rank. And then went to my first event, Halo 3, placed pro. My first event, got 7th place out of 256 teams. And then got picked up by a team that just got 3rd and just kind of propelled myself forward. I was on 4 different teams. My first year, I was on 4 different teams, won, a couple events. And then it just kind of, it took a lot for me to even be able to go to these tournaments. I had to do more chores around the house. Like, my parents were not okay with it. I had to get better grades, do more chores around the house, like make sure I was still keeping up with my extracurricular sports activities. I was playing tennis on the high school team.
How did you balance doing what you're doing in terms of Halo, school, and then playing tennis on top?
I was still playing like 8 hours a day too. Like, I mean, I probably slept my first like 2 or 3 classes. Yeah. I had to get like a 3.0 average in school, like the whole time to be able to go to these. And like my grades were pretty average before. Like I just didn't really care about school that much. And I was like a 2.5 or something. And then, it was like get your grades up to a 3, and we'll consider letting you go to these tournaments. And then it was do more chores around the house. It was do this, and I did it all. I wanted to prove that I was the best in the state. Like there was no money to be made at this point. Like there really wasn't, a couple $100 here and there. I just wanted to prove that I was best. And then heck, I competed all through Halo 3. Halo Reach came out. I went to college during Halo Reach. Halo Reach, I was kind of like meh. Halo 3 was like the big time stuff. I wish streaming was around back then, because I think like things just could have been a lot different if it was. Straight ripping, it was OG, like great.
OG.
So much fun.
OG.
Like actually shaped my personality and a lot of who I am today based on like being around, legit Elamite and T-Squared. Like that was like my family back then. So I felt like they helped me kind of like grow up a little like older brother style in a sense. It's kind of, they took me under their wing. It was really cool looking back on. Then just went to school, and then it kind of like played Halo Reach, played Halo 4, went to Call of Duty for a little bit, played like COD kind of professionally for like half a year in COD Ghosts. Teamed with like players like Vicento, Diabolic, Accuracy, who's still playing, Cosmo, Lyric. Like there were some really good players that ended up actually doing well, and I just didn't like COD that much. I just didn't like fast time to kills. COD Ghost was meh. The next COD would have been sick. I kind of wish I competed in that one, but instead I went to Halo 4, which was like a bust. Then Halo 5 came out, and actually it was like Halo 2 Anniversary. God, there's been so many Halos. Holy cow, it's like taking up
so
half my
many.
life.
There's just a list. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Halo 5 happened. When that ended, they just started running these like average tournaments, and then Ghost Ayami is like the true savior in this whole thing. The amount of props I give him, I tell him this every time I hang out with him. Good friend of mine. He just was like, dude, this game, you got to play it. Like and he told me a little bit about it, like right after it launched, and I trusted him a lot. He worked at 343, left 343 to go work at Respawn EA to build this game. And he was a big part of it at the beginning, first couple years. And then he was like, dude, you got to play. It was one of the reasons I got an X Games invite as well, to even like jumpstart my whole career. And so like, I owe him like just so much gratitude. Went to X Games, performed, and then I got second place at X Games, was the kill leader at the whole tournament, and that's when everyone was like, "Oh man, like this kid is who is this?" And then all of a sudden they started hearing about my history from Halo. It was like, "Oh, we have a legend playing Apex, bringing kind of controllers on the map." It was like me and Nicewig at that point in time.
Yeah, you guys were like the OGs of like the first 2 controller players.
Yeah,
and the comp scene.
I think we were the only 2 at X Games, the only 2 controller players at that whole LAN.
Only 2 X Games, only 2 Poland as well. I was gonna ask about X Games, with the invite, because like it's the 3rd documented tournament you ever played on Liquipedia, and so did you get the invite? So you're mentioning now it's because it goes to Yame, but was it also too because you were like a former X Games gold medalist and like you were Snip3down? They like is that why it was? Because I know the 2 teammates you brought too were like relatively unknown in the scene, right? Like talk about that, like the invite you got to go there, and if you actually even ever expected to compete in Apex at all before that.
No, honestly, no. I mean, I was doing like kill race tournaments, and I was making a name for myself in those. I think Monsoon, like, I think thought I was a cheater at one point. Like, I was just, it was like I was working my way up through the pro scene all over again from the very beginning. And I was like, dude, I thought I guess like Halo isn't that big. No one really like knew me. So I was like, all right, whatever. So that was kind of fun. The whole X Games thing. I mean, yeah, actually, they gave that invite to I think 2 other people before me, because there were 2 invites that they had that weren't going to pro teams. And I think Shroud was one of the people, because he was really big into the game at the time, and he said he didn't want it. And then there might have been one other person. They were like, we need to fill this spot, or it goes to another org. And then my name got thrown out there because I was starting to, kind of make a name for myself in Apex. I was streaming it with PC lobbies, like I said, kill race, things like that. I was in scrims and all that. And my name got thrown out because I was, previous X Games gold medalist in Halo. And they were like, hey, this could be a crazy storyline if he comes in. I'm still upset. I was 2 points away from having 2 golds in 2 different games. But yeah, I mean, it definitely affected it, and I'm so grateful that I was able to get that invite. That was one of the coolest tournaments ever. I just like, you play a game, you look to your left, and there's like skateboarders flying off the half pipe.
Yeah, I always heard there was guys on like dirt bikes and shit, so you guys couldn't even hear what was going on in the game half the time.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
I just have videos of that on my phone. They're so cool.
Another quick question I had about that is that, so at the time, like there was a lot of like players that played competitive BRs, like the Cal, there was Sweet, Dropped. They all came from like H1Z1. There was like Fortnite players, but you didn't come from a BR background. And what I noticed is like there was actually in the interview after when you got most of the limbs, they asked you about it, and you said you noticed that player like you could get more points by going for kills than just placement and finishing top 5, top 3 and such, right? And it's interesting because that ends up being like the first time someone talked about like the edge playstyle, which doesn't get adopted for like 2 years. So do you think sort of like not having that experience in BRs changed how you think about Apex in general, even today? Like with how like you kind of like were the guy known for like going for kills and like flanking and everything like that?
100%. Like my teammates, I found them both. They were from Finland, and they played a huge, like a hard zone gameplay. And I told them at the tournament, I was like, dude, let's watch some of these games, do some research. And I had pinpointed like everyone was doing the same rotates who was landing around us, and I had pinpointed these rotates. I was like, I am confident in like. I started realizing at this point in time how OP controller was at the beginning of Apex, and no one thought it was. And I had never come from BRs, and so I was like, I'm not going to help in any sense when it comes to zones or rotates or anything like that. I don't know, but I do know that I have an arena background of 3v3s, and I take these fights like an arena shooter kid. Like, I mean, that's just how I grew up. And I was like, this is isolated. This is isolated. This is isolated. Everyone goes, plays buildings. I was like, let's just fight our way in from like these corners of the map. My teammates were kind of against it. And they did. I respect it because they pulled me back a couple times that I really wanted to like full send teams. And they were like, no, like we have fun. It ended up working out really well. So I was like, I'm glad that they were confident enough at their first event to kind of pull me back, because I know my experience helped in a lot of ways, and that could be like semi-intimidating to say no to me. But they did, and it worked out really well. I just remember some specific fights we took around areas and just cleaning them out, and no one third-partied back at the beginning of Apex. Everyone held their spot and would just watch it happen. And I was like foaming at the mouth. It was great. R9 was just busted.
Yeah. It's so weird to watch that tournament be played on Kings Canyon. Like it's just a wild experience. Like just to picture that map being played competitively with the lack of loot that was never. It was just there was never any loot on that version of the map. It's just like a crazy visual. I wanted to go back to the earlier part of your career a little bit and talk about. You were in a weird spot when you started to come up through the ranks in Halo, because you were kind of like, we see it in sports now where there's like a young wonderkin who everybody's kind of talking about, but nobody really knows how it's going to pan out. And maybe they get, weird treatment from the pros around them. Like you said earlier, you kind of busted on the scene out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you were like this, like real big free agent going into Halo. What was that like, being as young as you were and not really having any experience around like this scene? You just played games, like you said, in the basement with your friends and had these parties, and all of a sudden you're like a big name free agent. Was it tough to handle all of that pressure?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say when I was like 13 through 15 is when I started like kind of breaking out more 14, 15, because that's like when I started getting into the pro lobbies with these like free-for-alls and things like that. And, If you were a high rank in Halo, like you got your name was recognized, but you weren't given like any credit until you went to tournaments and got pro points. And that was the whole thing. Like, you can't say you're better than me or talk to me until you have more pro points than me. Like, that was what was used nonstop. And that was like thrown in my face. I'm an online warrior. I'll never do well on LAN. I'll get nervous. You're trash. You do this. You cheat for hosts. Like all these other things just to try and like break me down, because no one wants to lose to someone that has never been to tournaments. That's like they don't know of. Like no one likes losing, especially like with the way I was beating a lot of these people. And I was young. I didn't care. I was behind a mic. I talked a lot of trash. As a young squeaker kid, like my voice was like as high as could be. And there's people send me videos of some of these clips, and they're so funny listening back to them. Like, dang, I really let them know. And a lot of people actually just didn't like me at that point. Like even in the pro space after that. And I was supposed to go to my first Halo 2 event. Meadowlands 2007 was supposed to be the event. It was like really hyped up that I was going to this tournament. I was ready to compete in the free-for-all, which at that time, like, I think I was a top 5 free-for-all player in the game. Like, I mean, I didn't lose. I got top 2 in every single online free-for-all with the highest hit percentage by like 10 to 15%. Like, it wasn't even close. It was me and Pistola for sure. So everyone was hyped about this, me going. And then my ride, who like had promised he was going to pick me up, calls me and says, sorry, we can't get you any more, cars full. Like the day before the tournament. And I'm like 14 or 15, like crying at my parents' house because this just happened. I thought I was going to ruin my potential chances for teams in the future. And I had pro players remove me from their friends list afterwards because everyone thought I was like a liar and a fake. And like I was a fraud and someone that just wasn't going to show up because I got nervous. Like all these rumors started flying around. And that was the last event before Halo 3 came out. So I just said like, screw everybody. I'm going to start playing Halo 3 while everyone's playing Halo 2. Because they still had another tournament like a month and a half away. So I had like a month head start on Halo 3 from all these pro players that are grinding for national championships Halo 2. And I was without a doubt the best player in the game. Like when they started getting back to Halo 3, and it was noticeable because I would get put in these lobbies. And I remember this one specifically. It was against like, it was against K to the Arma and Shockwave. And I went like 27-2 in a Guardian Slayer game. And it was just like, peeling everybody already new spawns. They didn't know anything. I got kicked from the lobby. Like they like picked up these people with like numbers in their name who were just horrible and like they refused to play against me. And so like that happened a couple different times where like pros didn't want to play with me early on, and then my name just I started getting better and better teams due to how good I was early on. And then it just kind of was like, okay, going to my first event, I teamed with Eli Gunshot and this kid named Silent, who I kind of handpicked. And Eli Gunshot had like always kind of had my back in Halo 2. So I had people that knew of me, knew I was good, that gave me a chance at the beginning of Halo 3. And then after I went to my first live event, I did really, really well at that event. After that, it was just like, okay, he's the breakout player of this game, because there's always a couple. I mean, we saw Shotzi in Halo 5, and now he plays Call of Duty, went pro in Call of Duty his first year, won a national championship. Like, I'm telling you, Halo breeds the best gamers, and I'll die on that hill that like the top gamers at Halo can swap to majority of other FPS games and do just fine due to how those games are.
Do you think there's a player right now in Apex that could switch back to Halo? Do you think there's a player with that kind of potential?
I guarantee there is. I told Sykes I think he's one of them. I mean, I played Halo with Sykes already. Sykes, I don't know if you knew this, Sykes just started playing video games like within this past like 2 years.
That's
like
crazy.
Past couple of years. He had never played video games like his whole childhood, all the way up until he was like 20 or something. And he just told me this information. I was like, bro, that is incredible how good you got so fast. And he's played a little bit of Halo, and I've seen like he's good. He's smart. I think Jen Burton is. I mean, look, he's a freak of nature. You look at him play Valorant or any M&K game. Like he could be professional in this game on mouse and keyboard if he really wanted to. He's that good. So I do think that Apex has a lot of top talent. It's also a much larger sample pool of players.
So then after everything happens with Halo, you guys go to X Games, things kind of go crazy for you. And then all of a sudden you're on a team with Sweet, you play with him for a little bit, and then the big move over to TSM. How did that whole thing transpire? How did that whole situation play out?
Yeah, that actually, like, that team with me, Sweet, and Dropped was so good. We were really, really good at that point in time in the game. And that was on Watson. That was before Bloodhound meta was even a thing. And I was like, if I was on Bloodhound, Sweet didn't even play the game back then. Like, we were on our way to winning majority of the stuff that was happening back then. And Rogue was the team sponsor. And my agency was like, yeah, let's talk to them. Let's see, what they're willing to do. And they wanted full exclusivity. I couldn't have a single outside sponsor, and they wanted like to pay me, I think it was $1,500 a month for like a 3-year lockdown contract. It was really, really bad. And then so I wasn't contracted while Sweet and Dropped were. And then TSM came along shortly after we had won some online tournament, and they were having issues with Mac. And it was kind of like TSM with the biggest following in the game and a contract that's going to be worthy of like, taking it in that time and all the growth, and it's still a very, very successful roster, or like stick it out and figure it out. And it was just kind of like, I mean, I told Sweet and Dropped immediately, and they were just like, you'd be dumb to not take that. So
yeah, that team was that team was okay. So not the first. Liquid was the first to win a tournament after TSM, but that Rogue team, you guys were the second, I believe. So it was like TSM had their 5 back-to-back, then it was Liquid, then Rogue, and I always found that interesting because I'm like, then you take Snip3down and stick them right into like the only other team to finally end their dynasty at the beginning of the game.
It was good times.
That entire TSM era, like it was. I think there's not an Apex Hall of Fame right now, but there would be a lot of those clips up inside the Apex Hall of Fame if they ever made one. Funny, angry, swinging a Bloodhound axe. There's just plenty of moments throughout that entire run. Is there any that stand out to you, like throughout that run with Hal and Reps that you look back on fondly?
I mean, definitely the one where coming out of the dropship, of course. I mean, that's like one of the most iconic clips.
It has to be.
I think
without a doubt, is top 5 most iconic clips 100%. Of Apex. No debate.
Yeah, 100% it is. That was just like we were just all freaking out. I wish we would have won that whole tournament because that would have made it even more epic. I think we got second or third or something, but yeah, that was crazy. I mean, the whole like I thought you said Weiss. I just or like the fucking dudes comment. Yeah, like things like that. I mean, there were just a lot of like it was a very good team, but it was also just like we had fun with each other, and I think we brought out a lot of sides of each other that the public doesn't get to see very often on teams. And you just kind of saw like how we are with each other, even though it's like serious, it's not, and we can, keep them separate. We might've gotten into some arguments and butted heads, but I also think we brought out the best in each other a lot of that time, and we made each other better players. So, looking back, it's tough. It's tough because that was like, I told myself I didn't want to leave something like that, and I did. And it was like, obviously, in the end, not the right thing, but you can't, I don't look at it like that. It's just kind of one of those, all right, that's a learning experience. Like enjoy what you have and really appreciate the things that you got around you. So.
Yeah, I remember it being like really emotional when you left, but not just for like you guys, obviously, but even for the community. Like I documented the whole thing in in a TSM video story. I don't know if you've ever seen it. So probably the reason I'm sitting here. But everyone loves that part of the video. Just because of like the sort of like the feelings that was brought out by that team. It was something different, something special, something you don't see in every single Apex team, right? So yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, this might be going into later what I think we're going to talk about. But funny enough, I saw on your Apex Hours podcast, you asked the other day, you mentioned how Zero is like the first person Hal's going to have to deal with kind of like almost kind of giving it back to him what he gives to other players. And I'm like, no, Snipe, like you did that. You were the guy.
You're right. You were right.
You were not the first.
I was the first to do that. I didn't usually start it though. No. Like, yeah, he would say something like a smart ass, and I would be like, dude, this is the biggest deflection ever. I go back, watch the fight. He did 23 damage, and he's yelling at something we did. And I'm just like, because you hear it and you don't know what actually happened, so you're just defending something right away without actually understanding the situation, because that's just him and I. And then I go back and watch, and I'm like, bro, this is, and he just, no one else really did that. Everyone just argued, and I mean, it's funny with Zero because like he does admit when he's wrong, like he knows right away, and that's something that I don't think we saw as much, and I think that might just have to be it's just a respect thing, I think, and you can tell Hal doesn't like. I don't want to say this. I don't want to say he doesn't respect people, but in terms of like, he respects people who are just as good as him, put in just as much time with him, and like that's where his respect starts from in terms of like listening to someone or agreeing or admitting that they're wrong. Because if he doesn't like see you near that level, like it's not going to come across as like serious. It's just like that with pretty much everything you do or people around you. So
you have an interesting perspective in the game because you actually played with both Sweet and Hal, and for a long time there was a debate like between which one was the best IGL. I don't know if you really need to name a best in your opinion, but at least just playing with each of them, what did you kind of learn from both of those guys as you were moving forward and playing Apex?
I mean, I think Sweet taught me more about macro and how important like the little things are in the game. He was very methodical in just how he rotated the positions. The like his IGLing is so unique compared to honestly everyone else that I listen to. Like I don't think there's anyone that micros as well as he does, and I needed that. Like I needed that for growth in battle royale is a completely different genre than I really understood. Because I was just, we can kill this. Like, oh, like we take 350. Like I wasn't thinking about all these other, like how that affects all these other aspects. So I just learned a lot about like BRs in general through him. Like the micros, the comms, things like that. And then, Hal was completely different in the sense of passion, like of work effort or work ethic and effort and repetitiveness and things like that. Because Sweet, like I said, he didn't really play the game. He just hopped on and did his job at that point in time. Like, and we've seen him with stages. He's kind of doing that right now. Like I don't see him play too often. But when he puts in the work and the effort, I mean, there's been times where you've thought he was the best player in the game. But that's always been there for Hal. There's never been a time that this game's been launched that Hal hasn't been that like pinnacle of that's who you need to, like, that's the work ethic you need to have to get to that level. Whereas like, I think Sweet is just kind of just a overall pretty smart like person in general. And so I think it's just more natural for him in that sense. So I learned a ton from both of them. And then, and then I got Phony. I've had phenomenal IGLs by my side throughout my Apex career.
I think we can move on into FaZe too, because you guys had a very successful run as well. You bring up Phony. That was one of my favorite teams to watch. And when we first started this podcast was around the time that team was formed. And I got roasted for putting a lot of respect on your guys' names early on. But I just truly believed in the team. I believed in Phony, and I had already seen what you can do. So how was that run? And is there like a moment that stands out to you from the run with FaZe?
I mean, the whole FaZe thing is like, it's kind of jaded a little bit, just in the sense of how things ended. Just,
reason why?
Yeah, just because of how the things ended. And then, like, I mean, it was nice because I hadn't, I competed with TSM. I really hadn't competed at anything since the Poland event in Krakow, where my PC crashed going up to the finals. So like, that was my most recent LAN experience before I came back, rather than all these online tournaments. And I went to that first event after the event with Mac and Slurp, and was like, I need to be back on the stage. And then I got back to that stage with Phony and Frex, and we had to put a lot of trust into each other to even form that team. We had no points. Phony gave up the points. That complexity ended up holding on to with Luda. So they had his first event points. Frex dropped his points with the whole SSG thing. And then we had to start, we trusted each other to do well in Pro League, trusted each other to make finals, all this. And then, it felt like after LAN, when we were in a position, if the tournament ended, we would have gotten third place. Optic would have won the tournament. They should have won that team fight, honestly. And then the tournament should have been over. We would have gotten third place. And I don't think anything would have happened. But, I'm very proud of what we accomplished. 5th and 6th on LAN. There's hundreds of players that haven't accomplished anything like that. And to leave the game, come back, new meta, new players, everyone had a year over me in terms of game time and experience in that sense. Like I missed out on a lot of time. I had to play a lot of catch up early on. And, I felt like, we were in a good spot and we could have done more and really talked about things and continued to do well. And, everyone's in their own spot right now, but, I still look back fondly of playing on that stage in front of that crowd, because I would have been very disheartened if I never made it back there after returning to that, how grand those Apex events really are from that side.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would say or try to argue that like 5th and 6th, especially for like Apex, like to do that back to back is like very impressive. Yeah. There's definitely nothing to be like, oh man, rough go.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's the whole thing, though. That doesn't really matter to people, because I had such a bad reputation after that. Like after our team split up, it was almost seen as if like I had no impact whatsoever on those events. It was all Phony. This, and I thought I played really well at those events. There were a lot of people that I thought, I thought I played well at those, and it kind of just community sentiment tanked pretty hard after that. And then the split with Zera and Pan that was kind of thrown together last minute. We don't do well. It doesn't help. And so that's kind of another reason why I'm sitting this one out. I'm not trying to, be in that situation again, and I'll work on the side and master what I do. And if another opportunity shows up, it does. If not, like, I'm not going to hang my head on it, but I'm not here to be mediocre. I'm here to be great. And yeah, so I'm not going to, I'm 33 now, so I'm not going through CC. I'm not going to do all that. Like, I have so many other priorities that I can focus on and spend that time and energy towards that I feel like could be, beneficial to me. And it's, if it's back and competing, then it is. If it's not, then I'll take that next step forward.
So just looking for like that right fit more so than just throwing something together to see if it works.
Yeah. And like I enjoy subbing on these rosters, like whether it's Tripods today, it was I played with Vanity a couple weeks back, or subbing in on these teams. Like that's what I want to do to make sure that I'm still keeping up with it and putting effort in that and streaming, putting the hours in, because I love what I do. I love being in this space and having that community, the streaming community, being able to do podcasts like this, and I'll be here no matter what. So,
and I've heard that you're becoming the number one altar main. Because I'm not gonna lie, my first couple games of playing her, I was like, dude, this character is nuts. I've spent the majority of the time on Lifeline, but dude, altar, good time.
She's so much fun, man. I'm telling you, solos is the best thing for her because it's constant 1v1 outplayability with with like her Qs. And I want her to make it into comp so bad. I don't know what they need to do, but she's a fun character to watch.
Crypto, I'm just saying,
it is good.
You are going to pave yourself right on to that Meat Lovers roster if you stay the course.
I've been saying Crypto's solid too, man. I've been saying I don't think Crypto's as bad as people think he is. I just don't think we've had like that many great Cryptos. It's like, I mean, it's a very situational character, but I think it could be fun. I mean, hell, like if I could come back, throw together a team with Crypto Alter and push things like I've always wanted to. Maybe I'll IGL behind it all or something, but I mean, Alter's fun, man. I'm gonna be playing her a lot. I think she's up there for most enjoyable characters right now.
Snip3down IGL? Question mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I've been talking about it. I think Realm is great to try and IGL, and I haven't played any yet, but I don't really think I don't really want to, but it could be fun. Like just if I'm not taking it, I'll take it serious when I'm doing it, but I'm not gonna that's not gonna be my new thing. Of this is how I get back into the space, IGL for sure. Like, no,
you're not going to be ripping the 5-hour VOD review streams of different scrims.
I watch enough scrims. I feel like I have a decent understanding of like playing it. Zero's overkill, man. That guy does. Dude, I mean, there's a reason.
Yeah, and especially since he started streaming, because he's been putting in like this insane amount of work like the whole time. But now that he's doing it on stream and he's just showing everybody, I'm gonna sub in EU scrims. Then I'm going to play both in my scrim blocks, and then I'm going to watch two different teams, like whole scrim blocks.
TDMs, then he does R5. It's like, bro.
Yeah. There's a reason that he's where he's at. And
I agree.
I think it's great that he's like streaming it more, because now like everybody else gets to see it and like see like, okay, there's a reason why this guy is performing at the level he is.
Yeah,
100%.
I've never been had the chance to or the opportunity to talk to Hal yet, but I've talked to Zero a handful of times, and I don't know if there's another player that can name drop like the most obscure player you've probably never heard of, but then give you like an accurate read on why they'll be like the next up player, and then he knows like where every team is dropping their macro and everything, because that guy just VOD reviews everything, and like and his work ethic is off the charts.
It's impressive, and now he's next to Hal, who's like arguably puts in just as much much time. And so
that's what I mean.
I mean, that team, anything other than first place is like a disappointment. Like first or second, or that's it. First or second, that's it.
Like even when you see him get second by 1 point, and it's like, tough day for Falcons out there.
Yeah, for real. You're expecting like 12-point plus games every game. Like it's
it's crazy to watch. It's like just from watching these first 2 days. They're able to it seems like every play they make, every fight they take, every road take they do just seems like the right play every single time. And it's a mixture of the skill, but also the amount of effort and time and hard work they put in. So, yeah, I mean, they're clearing the rest of, other than SSG, they're clearing the rest of the table by like 20 points. So it's absolutely insane. I wanted to ask your question, this question, because I think it's real interesting and also kind of a different way to look at gaming. Halo LAN or Apex LAN? Which one was better? Because at the time, gaming was a little smaller, and now Apex is a little bit bigger with gaming around it. But I feel like there was probably like an aspect of just like grassroots when Halo first started their LAN situation.
Yeah, I mean, early Halo LANs I think were like pretty top tier. Just the crowds, everything. Like, I mean, it was just a set of bleachers, like this big set of bleachers that you would put right in front of the setups, and like they were like, it was like the crowd was like in your face. Whereas, you know, Apex events, the crowd's further away, but way more broad and wide. Overall experience, I'd probably say like the Apex lands are way better. Just due to like the grandeur of it. But in terms of like how I felt immersed with the crowd, Halo lands were more immersive. One, because like you have soundproof headphones on at these Apex lands, like you just hear like roars. You don't really hear like that much until the games are over, and then you can kind of like take your headphones off and you hear the crowd. Whereas Halo lands, like, bro, the signs were right in front of you. Like I had the stage next to my left where like I would do something sick and I would hear the guy next to me like visibly like freak out. And like I'm still like super zoning the game. Like I get a double kill, it's like, oh, I get a triple kill, it's even louder. Like, oh, and it's right in my ear, as if like I'm being surrounded by these people. So that like was more immersive, I think. But the Apex lands itself are like would a little different for sure.
Okay, when it comes to Apex lands, are you top bunk or bottom bunk?
This is huge. This is a big
question. Yeah,
I think I've only been on the top.
You've only been. You've never.
I think I've only been
how
on the
many
top.
lands have you been to?
2. No, I was bottom in Poland, but that was different. The setup was a lot different. Mm-hmm. Like these past ones, it's always like
so,
the 20 boosts, and then
you're saying you're top bunk every time you play at an Apex
I think
land?
at the last 2 lands, I think I was always top every set.
Well, I think
who knows? He could have won if he was bottom. We don't even know.
What's the theory behind this?
We have no idea what a bottom bunk snipe down looks like.
Yeah, no clue.
Oh man, they're ready for it. Next time I'm making that a point. Listen,
yeah, we've started asking that question to all the pros.
To the top, I don't know.
Yeah, we want to get every pro's opinion on whether or not they'd be top or bottom, because I think we just found out a few weeks ago that they actually, you get to choose on like final Sunday based on like your point rankings or whatever, and we're just trying to figure out where the most prime position is. And so that's we got to ask, but that kind of sucks.
I like the top.
Okay, all right, there we go. We can add that to the list. Right now, top is winning 2-1. Nice. Yeah, right now top's winning 2-1. It was you and Slayer on top, and then Verhul said bottom. So that's the rankings we got going right
Verhul's is the bottom, huh?
Verhul's is the bottom.
Yeah.
Verhul's won on at least one time. Verhul's won on top though. I do know that. I don't know if I don't know what champs was, but I know the split one playoffs was on
top. Speaking of the Halo lands and the crowd being like right next to you, I also think Halo lands had the added benefit of there was a lot more trash talk. I feel like I was watching some older videos today. The camera's blurry. You can barely hear the mics, but you could just see everybody getting mad and like getting angry with one another. And I feel like we missed that in Apex a little bit. Like there was even some pre-game interviews with you, kind of talking trash a little bit. Some other people talking trash to you. I feel like that should be in Apex a little bit more. I feel like there's too much sportsmanship going on. Do you agree with that, or do you like the way they have it going right now?
I think it's just harder now. Like, at these Halo events, you were right across from the people that you were playing. Like, you do something like if this was the same setup as Nasky and Zach, and they just off dropped, and Nasky was across from Zach, he's like standing up and pointing in his face and being like, "Your whole roster wants to drop you," like just saying absurd things. So I think the layout is just, it makes it harder to trash talk and get that at these tournaments, because you could see, like, with the way that I was being surrounded before, like, you can see, like, the players really up close and trash talking. Like, Gandhi was throwing toilet paper rolls across the stage at the other people. And, like, there was different ways to interact and trash talk. Whereas, like, now it's a little separate. Everyone just, like, I don't know. Everyone wants to be friends with each other. Like, no one wants to upset each other unless you're, like, already close and then you start trash talking a bunch. Like, Hal and Zero were always trash talking back and forth. So you have to have a certain type of relationship, because everyone's worried about upsetting someone and then like potentially ruining a future teammate with trash talk, which, like, I don't care about that. Like I said, like, people ask me, would you team with Phony again? I'm like, yeah, of course I team with Phony again. Like, he's a freaking great IGL that I could win, that I think I could win tournaments with. We've had beef, but professionally and then like personally, it's two different things for me. And I think trash talk's a great thing as long as it's like within reason. Like I still am a huge promoter of sportsmanship. Don't kick people when they're down. Like, you really got to be able to read the room, and that's asking a lot, honestly. But You know, I think trash talk's fun. Yeah, it's asking a lot. It really is. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that disrespectfully. It is. It's not everyone can read those types of social cues, or might think you have a closer relationship with someone than you do. It's tough behind, you know, a screen or with way things can be misread through text or tweets or whatever. So I would love some more trash talk. That's good. I think the whole phony and me thing, regardless of it being, you know, a pain in the butt, because I was on one of the sides, like, and he was on a side. I think it was so kind of good for the community. It was a storyline that people, you know, wanted to hear more about and ask questions, and it was like just rumblings. What happened? And it's good to have content like that.
Phony versus Snipe or lethal versus Snipe? Which beef was more crazy?
Probably lethal, because he essentially like screwed our team out of like $1 million. That was a huge that came out of nowhere. I kind of knew the phony thing was happening in a sense, but lethal, like, I just can't get over that. I mean, we were the best team in the game. We had won five tournaments back to back. We're the best team in the game in Halo 5, and then like 2 days before roster lock for the biggest $2.5 million tournament Halo's ever seen, he leaves us to join our biggest competition, and we had no options of like who was good. We didn't know. It was a brand new game. Like, we didn't know who to pick up and everything, and it just was like it was like stomping on our necks is what it felt like, because we all thought we were way closer than that. We thought we were like a fan. We were talking about signing contracts like that day or something with Evil Geniuses, and it was just like that. I think that was way worse than the whole phony situation.
It's crazy too, because like the internet probably wasn't, or like the scope of the internet wasn't as big as it is with the phony situation, but that situation was crazy. Like, it was insane. It would have been crazy to see how it would play out like now with everything that's going out. yeah, definitely be a lot different.
All right, so as someone who's been involved with esports as long as you have and has seen it from what it was like 10 years ago, like as someone who was like really inside of like it at the center, just like seeing it progress to where it is now, where do you think we're headed next 10, 20 years?
I feel like the growth in esports happened faster than the industry could keep up with it. So I don't see it getting, I mean, we have the esports World Cup, so we're going to have events like this, but I don't see it getting much more grand. I think we're in a kind of interesting time period of everyone's trying to figure out how to make this profitable, especially these organizations. You know, we've seen a lot of organizations go under or even make public statements about, you know, the spending and cutting back, and we've seen tons of cuts at these companies. I think the events will be there. I think orgs are going to have to restructure a little bit on how many games they can get in, or there needs to be some sort of balance with these publishers that are able to make the path easier for these organizations to profit. Because putting all the pressure on organizations to get sponsors and then somehow pay back, you know, these sponsors or people who are endorsing them without anything other than prize money is like, it's not realistic. It's so unrealistic to think that, you know, winning a tournament a lot of times is like 2 months of salary for some of these teams. So like, you're relying on winning a tournament to pay back a little bit on top, and then what? Like, where is the money coming from? So I think it's weird for me because I've been a player. I feel like I'm a manager, like a team manager, in terms of like being able to put together rosters. I feel like I see everything from the org's point of view. I see everything from the industry point of view. I see it from the player's point of view. So like, I feel like when it comes to the middle ground, it's going to come down to these companies, and just like, whether it's like EA or whether it's, you know, 343 or Activision or whoever it is, understanding that everyone needs to win for this to continue to grow and work, even if it might mean that like you're losing some money in some areas. If you're helping the industry grow, then that's it. Because like, the fact that EA hasn't done any partnership programs with, you know, skins, like they did the one and then what? Like, it was gone. Like,
dude, team skins with rev share, where is it? It's egregious at this point that we don't have something like that.
It is, and that is only hurting the scene. It's hurting the salaries of pro players. Like, orgs can't offer that much money to a lot of these players, even if they want to, because there's just no way to recoup that cost. and having any type of team skins in the game, like EA, I don't know what the reasoning is behind it. I can't think like it would cost that much to get that done, like the concepts and things like that. Like I don't know enough about that side of the industry, but I don't know if it's because they don't want to share profits. Like they do that, and then they're essentially putting all that work and effort into it, and then having to put that in the shop to take up spots there where like their actual inventory would be, that they don't want to share something that they feel like they're already getting a lot of in a sense. And that's just kind of corporate greed. Like that's just like how the system is set up. You know, everyone wants to keep padding their own pockets, when it's like, that's what I'm referring to of when everyone can win is when more pro players, more big streamers, more people can actually make a living out of this, because, you know, getting a 2K a month salary as a pro player with a small stream, like that's not really enough to like you're gonna have to find, depending on how old you are, like you're gonna have to find other ways to make it work. So being a pro player, like you don't get benefits, you don't get a lot of that stuff. Like there needs to be ways for pros to make this better, and that's going to come from everyone being able to win, because orgs can't offer that. They can't pay it back because they're not making enough. And I think we're in a very big restructuring phase. I know this has been a long answer, but
no, it's been great.
This is good though.
I seriously think that's
fantastic.
That's where it begins, and if it doesn't, then someone's always going to be suffering in one of the senses, and it's not going to be the game companies, because the game companies is, you know, people are playing the game and buying skins and everything regardless. It's more up to them, I think, to, if you're going to have a competition and like competitive avenues in your game, and you want pro players and all this, and you want like orgs, and then the pro players are the only ones kind of getting something out of those competitions. The orgs really aren't, because they don't have any way to like make that. I mean, they had a couple boosts at the last event, and people were selling, you know, shirts and jerseys, but like, I mean, that's a start. Like that's at least that's good. That's showing like they're supporting, and then EA is doing the whole partner program. Like that's good. Those are very good first steps. But you know, we've seen teams in the partner program already back out. Optic backed out. So it's clearly not like enough. It's something. So I'm not saying like, I'm not being, you know, it's I'm not saying like everything it's bad. You know, that's really good, and that's more than they were doing before. So it's a step in the right direction. But I still think like we need more across the industry, not just Apex or anything, but the industry itself. And that's why Halo has done well. I mean, Halo's cosmetics right away. I mean, I talked to so many team managers and GMs that were like, this is one of the best like return systems for an organization that we've seen in any game across all of esports, regardless of people's perceptions of Halo and everything around it. The viewership, none of that was there, but huge orgs are still representing teams in that game because of the system that 343 put in place, which is, you know, that's kind of what I'm referring to here.
It seems like a giant missed opportunity too with like the skins, because a lot of the times you just put some logos in some right positions and, you know, people are going to be like, yeah, I'm buying that. Like, I don't think it has to be anything too luxurious or crazy for people to be like, oh, that's, you know, that's not enough for me. It's like, as long as you see the logo of the team you support there in some decent fashion, which I feel like they already have the base for the skin, I feel like it wouldn't cost them too much. Now that comes from a place of like ignorance. I don't know 100% how much that would cost, but it seems like, huh?
Okay.
Make the orgs do it.
If that's an option, not cost that much money.
Make the orgs do it.
Can,
yeah.
You know,
if that's the excuse,
cannot cost money to recolor a skin.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the excuse, then just make the orgs tell them what format they need, tell them everything that they need, and have the org hire their own designers, outside sources, make them pay a couple thousand, whatever they think they want to put into it, and then as long as they're within the standards, feed that to EA, and then make it work. If it's a time thing they don't want to cut out of their current, you know, time frame or goals or whatever it is that they have, then put that on the orgs. If they want a piece of it, then they can put that up, and then they'll get the returns through what they think the game is able to. So like, if that's the excuse, then like, I don't know. I feel like that in my head, there's always a workaround.
From what
there's just no way. There's just no way that's not in their time frame, because their store is just ever expanding. It's like a black hole. It's just taking the store now is like 7 tabs on Apex, so it has to be in there somewhere. You got to find a way to put it
tab.
in.
Why not? There should just be an esports tab right there with its own page with a bunch of skins and all that. Yeah, it just feels like kind of an excuse. It's kind of like we just don't want to do it. It's not profitable enough. Is like a fair enough answer, I think. I mean, just say it. Like, you know, we're always considering, but it's like, you can consider, I don't know. I would love to see that. I would love to see. I mean, I wish I freaking had the Fortnite creator codes. I heard the amount of money that got bought on those was through the roof. So
yeah.
I wish Apex had something like that, and just
I think creator codes would be crazy.
Always hope.
I don't know why we don't have that.
They would go so hard. It just makes no sense.
Like,
I just can't imagine that Apex wouldn't make, like, even if they're like losing money on like the percentage that they're going to give to creators. Like, I feel like more people would be.
I feel like you can. More people
like
would
incentivized to buy skins, because then you're like, okay, I'm supporting the game I like, I'm supporting the creator I like, and I get something that I enjoy looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it just gives you another incentive, but it just makes too much sense. So we won't do that.
That's where we're at. You brought up a really good point when you first started kind of breaking down why the industry is struggling, and you said for somebody of a particular age, it's just not viable to be able to try and do things. And there's a lot of younger kids coming into the gaming scene, and it's kind of becoming almost like, it's just changed from the time that you started with Halo to now. It's just changed in a very big way. And I was watching your Halo retirement video, and you were talking about how there was a lot of times you kind of felt isolated and alone, even with some of the teams that you were playing with. Was there any way that you found to kind of help you combat those feelings, or any advice that you could give to a younger player trying to make it in this scene that you've learned along the way in your journey of esports to kind of help them out?
Yeah, I mean, when you're younger, you just have to get involved, whether like that's hopping in a bunch of different pro player streams and just, kind of meat writing in a little bit, like in a harsh way to put that, like, but it's accurate. Like you need to make friends in the industry. You can't just rely on only your gameplay to like get noticed, because even when your gameplay gets noticed, like then you're still relying on other people to reach out to you. Make your gameplay a priority, but don't be shy to like make connections in the space. And for me, one of the harshest realities, and I luckily had a good group of people around me, was like, you might have a set like group of homies that you play with nonstop, but if you're way better than your group of friends, you need to find people who are similar in skill to you or better to like start playing with to improve as a player. You can't just keep playing with people who are average. It's like Messi playing on this Miami team. Like there's no way he's improving as a football player on that like with those teams against that type of competition. Like if anything, he's going to get worse because he's able to get away with more. You want to be challenged. You want to, get in these harder lobbies. So you kind of have to let your homies know or your friends know, like, hey, like today I'm going to run with this group or whatever it is. And like, there's a couple people, Voltic, I started playing with him a bunch and kind of gave him a shot. There's been a couple people in the Apex scene that just kind of hit me up in my chat and was like, hey, do you want a game? And I started playing with them, and it kind of helped put their name on the map. And they've been very appreciative of just being like, yo, dude, I can't believe, like, I just said I was a Pred player and you were looking for one and said, join up. Like, you never know what kind of opportunities you might get, but you don't get those unless you actively try and, make yourself seen. And sometimes you're going to get ignored and it might suck. And it might be like, oh, well, I'm just being a nuisance. Like, you can't think like that. Like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out and try and make friends. And that's the route. Is life is through connections. Like, that's not just a gaming thing. You really got to put yourself out there.
You just can't get caught up in your feels when it doesn't go the way you want it to.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. I've had my fair share. So.
Okay. So we got a couple last questions here before we round it out. First one, what do you think was the best decision you ever made in your esports career? What do you think was the worst one?
I mean, my best decision was for sure just swapping to Apex in the first place. Like, that was a huge risk just in general. I could have still just floated around and played in these Halo 5 tournaments and Halo 3 throwback tournaments and whatever, but it was really kind of like, okay, like, this is a game. I kind of swapped, no plans intended, and just played another game I fell in love with like really quickly, which was Apex. And it just took me somewhere I didn't expect it to, streaming wise, everything. And then worst decision is just obviously leaving the TSM roster. And going back to Halo. I mean, it was a huge risk to begin with. I regretted it very quickly. I even like asked my old team kind of like, hey, where's your heads at? And they were just committed with Vorholst at that point. It was just too late. And I didn't realize it until like the first couple weeks where I started interacting with the Halo community again. And I was like, man, this is just, it's not the same community. It's not as welcoming. I don't have the friends. I don't have the support group, even the people in the stream. Like the stream numbers were great that first like 2-3 weeks. Like I was in the 10+ thousands, like nonstop, and then the game just died. quickly, the stream, like everything, it was tough. And not to mention, like, I had so much happening in my own personal life at that point in time that it was like, I'm not enjoying my job. My personal life is troublesome. My father was really ill, and it was just a lot at once. So it just kind of felt like one of those when it rains, it pours time frames. I think everyone kind of goes through those at some point. So that was by far like the worst decision I made.
As far as the name Snip3down goes, you're considered one of the greatest snipers of all time. Did the name Snip3down come first, or did you play and then when you figured out your prowess with the sniper rifle, then you picked the name Snip3down? I've always wondered that. Chicken or the egg situation.
Yeah. The name came after I was like sniping everybody out of Warhogs at Halo 1. So I was just like always perched up, high point map. I was like, the Snip3down sounds sick. Let's go with that. My friends just called me the rookie. Like they called me the natural is what they did. Cause I when I first played Halo 1, I picked it up and I was just good right away. And there were people that played every weekend, and I was beating them, and they were like, "Dude, like you have to have an Xbox. There's no way you don't play." Didn't own anything, and like they were just like, "Dude, like you're going as the natural. This is not normal. No one's this good at this game right away." And then I got invited back like every weekend to come play at these Halo 1 lands until I was better than everyone pretty quickly.
Honestly, the natural is also a pretty fire name.
Like,
but you have to get the there. It has to be the natural.
The natural, yeah, it was.
Not too many names are gonna beat Snip3down.
No,
like,
they're not.
There's just
everyone thought it was lame at first.
Really?
It was like, yeah, because I was like XX Snip3down, XX with like every other letter capitalized back in like the OG days.
And I guess the 3 and the E too.
It was, and everyone's like, dude, anyone who puts sniper in their name like is a noob. Like they suck with that weapon. Like it's just so annoying to see it, and I just come out and just ripping heads. It's like, yeah, not me. So I guess I just kind of put the name on the map a little bit.
For anyone out there who hasn't seen a Snip3down Halo clip,
oh dude,
you got to.
that was gonna lead into my next question, which was, out of all the moments you've ever had, and I guess this could include Apex, but I really think this is gonna land on Halo. What was the greatest moment, like just gaming wise? Like you're in a competitive setting. What was your greatest moment?
I mean, the greatest feeling I ever had in gaming was definitely winning X Games, like in Halo 5. Like just because the whole lethal dropped, or like the lethal situation, he left our roster and made us pick up like a random player, and I literally got it right behind me. And we had to pick up some kid we never even like really knew, never heard about, picked him up, and we ended up winning X Games in this like incredible comeback fashion against them in the finals. And like, I remember, I feel like I thought I like ruptured something inside of me with how much I erupted after winning that. That was the greatest like feeling from a tournament. I'm trying, like, greatest individual. It's kind of tarnished because we lost the game, but like there's the whole Snip3down is on fire clip. We ended up losing that game, but that was like, if I ended up clutching that, I missed my jump. And if I don't miss that jump, I'm lined up on the headshot and this guy that was pulling up, and we probably would have won that game. And I look back, I'm like, dude, this was so sick, but it was such like a scuff situation. Vegas, I don't know what there was one snipe spree I had in Vegas 2008 where we ended up winning the national championship, where I was sniping people through like these small little cracks in areas that no one had sniped people from, getting double kills, going up lifts. I think I had like 15 sniper headshots in that game, which was like that game alone, which is unheard of. I was a pit king of the hill game, and then we ended up winning that series and then winning the whole championship. So probably that tournament as well, like the two biggest.
Hell yeah. Well, I heard, like, I got put on the radar of who you were because I didn't play Halo, but one of my close friends, Schmazzy, pointed out who you were because I was getting into Apex, and he was like, Snip3down's in Apex now, and he started like talking to me, telling me about you. I started watching all these clips, and he asked me this question. I feel like I gotta ask it to you. Was there ever a time in Halo where you had an absolutely cracked roster lined up and something just fell through that maybe like a roster other people don't know that you almost were on going into like a big event?
Oh yeah. No, I had a couple actually that were really close to coming to life, and the main one that I can think of was in 2009 when my straight ripping roster, like we had won a lot of the 2008 events, and then in 2009 it was like we were flipping off event after event after event. We won the second event, and then we got fourth at the third, and this is when like Pistola, Hines, and then we're like killing it on that Triggers Down roster. And I went to Hysteria, who is also like an incredible player, and I told him that they should drop SK. So the roster would have been me, Heinz, Hysteria, and Pistola, who were like 4 of the top 5 players that everyone had voted on the previous year of like top players. And Hysteria like was kind of just like a little strange, and like Heinz and Pistola were young and they didn't like know how to make that conversation happen, even though they knew that like SK was like the weak link on the team for sure. And Hysteria turned it down because he was like good friends with SK. And then Heinz and Ola like didn't push on it, even though they both really wanted to do it. And then like it was supposed to happen, and I think that would have just been an absolute god squad. Like for sure it would have been.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Shout out Schmaz. Enoch, your final question.
All right, Snip3down. The final question that everybody gets asked, because everybody we have on the show is performing the top 1% of the field that they're pursuing, and you most certainly fit that bill. Okay. What has been one thing that you've learned along like your journey that's allowed you to get to the place where you are now, that somebody, regardless of the area of their life that they're trying to get into the top 1% in, that they could take and apply to them achieving that?
I mean, it's got to be mindset, man. Like it has to start with you. It doesn't start with anyone else around you. It doesn't start like it's you. It's just like anything. It's like making the decision to take your health seriously and start going to the gym every day if you want to lose weight. Like, you know, you can complain about things not going your way until like you put 110% into like whatever it is that you're doing. No excuses. Like nothing. It all stems from how much work and how bad you want it and what you're willing to do or risk to get there. And even if that doesn't work out, like you can't let that shatter that type of mentality, because that's a winner's mentality. Like you can't not think that you're gonna, as soon as you have doubt in anything that you do. And I've been a victim of my own doubt. Like I'm not like the most I'm a confident person, but there's been times where I've been like, dang, am I like, you know, am I still there? Am I still good enough? And that's happened recently. And at the end of the day, it's like I am, if I put in the work and the time and the effort and everything like that. And if you know, and I think that your mind is the strongest thing that you have to offer yourself, in pretty much every aspect, and that's where it all begins.
Well, Snipe, it's been oh, you had something else?
I was just gonna say, gotta love the Indiana representation.
Oh yeah, yep.
Oh yeah. I need to make a trip home, man. It's been too long. I need to get back to Indiana.
I haven't been, and I think I've been back to Indiana like once since I'd moved, or no, twice since I'd moved out.
Yeah,
it's just I haven't made it back too often, but yeah,
I need to see my mom.
Good times.
Yeah.
Well, Snipe, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for hopping on. This is a big one for us, man, because we've wanted you on for a while. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. One last thing I want to say. I just read this stat. Snip3down has won at least one event as a member of 9 different teams. Triggers Down, Straight Rippin', Ambush, Misfits, Excellent, Evil Geniuses, Envious, Truce, and Talks. That's a fucking awesome stat. That's just a sick stat.
Yeah.
Badass.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Badass.
Yeah.
Crazy
That's
stat.
awesome.
Snip3down trivia there for you. Ladies and gents, Snip3down, Eric Rona. Thanks, man, for hopping on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents, that was Snip3down. Shout out to Snip3down, the legend Eric Rona, for hopping on the podcast. That was awesome. Great to have him on the show. Can't wait to see what he does in the future. It's going to be a good time to see what Snip3down does in the future of Apex, because whether he's a player or is doing more commentary, I think he's a good person to have in the scene. So shout out Snip3down for hopping on the pod. Ladies and gents, no voicemails this week. We're going to go straight into the heart-to-heart. Let's get it. All right, ladies and gents, it is heart-to-heart time. Heart-to-heart time. I'll go first. My heart-to-heart this week has nothing to do with real life whatsoever. In fact, it has something to do with Jumba down here on your screen. We kicked off what I talked about last week, me, Jayhawk, Jumba, and some other friends getting together to start the Zombies Easter eggs. One weekend down, we're 3 Easter eggs down. That's impressive work right there. It's impressive work. Unfortunately, I wasn't a part of the Shangri-La one. I missed out on that one, but I did watch, and I was just trying to keep the boys' vibes high.
We'll run Shang back again, but it was a tedious one. Took some time, but we'll run that back. But 3,
Yeah,
I was surprised you got
I almost
3 done
chalked
that
the
fast.
moon one as well because I forgot you could put your space helmet back on once you take it off. So I choked out on the moon. I just choked out.
Yeah,
died.
let's get the record.
That's just a rookie
Let's
mistake.
get the record straight. He
be.
did not forget. He actually just didn't know. And
oh yeah, sorry, didn't forget. I just straight up didn't know because usually I grab the hacker, it takes off my spacesuit, and I'm like, oh okay, I got to go get a new spacesuit. So I thought when I took it off, I thought I had to run back and go grab a new spacesuit. So I'm on the moon. I can't breathe. I'm trying to run inside. I don't make it. I die. Almost completely destroy the entire moon Easter egg because then we have to go back to planet Earth twice to try and get Juggernog. Finally, we get it. Come back to the moon. Die again.
All of us died
and
that
then
time.
I got got Juggernog again. Then I paused the game, or like I left the screen and told them to grab the zombies while I went and checked the guide. Jayhawk already knew what to do, and I just didn't hear him. And I was listening to the guide. Then I go down again, lose Juggernog again. And then the final 2 rounds, I just went Juggernogless and was just like, we're just gonna do it and it'll work. And it did work. So the final like 2 rounds I redeemed myself because I survived with no Juggernog. Yeah.
There was one round all of us had to play without Jug because that was the round we died, but then it was speed cola, so we had to wait a full other round. Like it was a process once why that went down there. We should have finished.
Okay, so like,
sorry, go ahead.
How long are these taking you guys like per Easter egg, and like
2 to 3 hours?
How many rounds deep do you guys take?
So it's 2 to 3 hours, but funny enough, the rounds kind of vary because Shangri-La we got done by round 10, but that still took us 2.5 hours. So it's just like not a lot had to do in the rounds. We were able to like extend it and just do everything in one round. Like we probably would have had Moon done by 15, but then ended on 23 or 24. Because of the going down,
dude. Like, it was because I took off my space helmet and didn't know I could put it back on. Like I just straight up, I was just like, oh shit. It's so stupid to think about, but I literally thought the second I took off my space helmet, it's like, okay, it's gone forever. Like I'm not wearing a spacesuit anymore. Just a stupid thing to do. But now I know. Which is crazy too, because I've been playing zombies so long and I've played Moon so much, but I've always been the guy to grab the hacker. So I always just assumed, like, because when you grab the hacker, you lose your spacesuit. So it just like clicked in my head that the second I take the helmet off, it's gone. So yeah.
Funny thing is,
so it was just a tough look for your boy all the way around. Just a terrible, terrible game for me. Terrible Easter egg for me, but we were able to pull it off. And I came in clutch in the final 2 rounds with no Juggernog. So you have to slide into home as hard as you can. That's exactly what I did there.
It was good.
So that's my heart to heart this week. We've got 3 Easter eggs down. Next one, Origins. I've never even looked at a video about the Origins Easter egg. So this one's going to be hefty. So we'll see how that goes. But that is my heart to heart this week. Yours.
Yeah, I'm pretty straightforward this week. I mean, I'm just grateful. It's building season. It's building season. I just wake up every day and I'm excited to do what I'm going to do. And then I just get to have fun. And then whether like, it's really good because I would say that this is by far like the best I've been at like whether or not like the games are good or games are bad. Like I'm still going to have fun. Like we were at one point last week where we had like 7 minus games in a row and like a decent amount to cheaters. And like my teammate Wells is just like freaking out. And I'm literally just like crying laughing just because I think it's just so funny.
Vibes are high.
And it's just, yeah. So like I'm doing that better than I've ever done. And number 2 right now in the world. And so it's working. And I might lose it for a little bit, but we'll just gain it back. And then that boy, I'll tell you what, that boy effect is just silly because that man has a 12,000 RP lead on me. And that dude he's doing scrims. He actually just does it all.
Effect.
And he literally just hops. Dude, he just drops bombs, bro. It's just like literally these are his last games before he got off. Plus 481, which that's fucking insane. Plus 481 points. That's a 30 bomb. Like that's a 30 bomb. And that's not even with the top 5 bonus. That's just pure off of one game. And then it's 305, 263, 331, 312, 118, 289. Like, the dude just plays for like 2 hours and puts up like 3K. But you know, he's got Pro League, and I'm determined, and we'll catch him. But dude, that boy moving.
He is the rank 1 pred. Like, he did like 7 in a row, like back in the day, like 7 or 8 in a row back in the day.
Yeah, it's basically like, and I've played with Effect. The first time I played with Effect, I literally was like, this dude's cheating. Like, yeah, you actually would he'd just play Pathfinder, and he just goes around and he just kills everybody. And so, like, most of the time for like number 1 pred grinds, the guys who are grinding like top 5, top 10, they're like playing super smart, super conservative. They'll take a 3P. They'll go sit zone. They'll like, you just have to play super smart. This dude runs around and he just apes the whole lobby, and he just gets it done. It's actually nuts. But it's been fun, and like I literally I love what I'm doing right now, and I'm just gonna continue to wake up each and every day and work a little bit closer to that ultimate goal. And it's a fun time. I'm enjoying it, and I'm just grateful.
I think our first set of merch that we ever do there should be some Apex stuff, right? Like some, but I do think we should have just a grateful shirt, just grateful, because I think we've hit like 12 heart to hearts in a row where the heart to heart, the message was just be grateful. And it would be a massive fumble on our part if the hardcore diehard listeners of the show couldn't rock a grateful shirt.
Dude, I feel like the diehard listeners of the show at this point, I feel like we need to get some feedback on if they find themselves to be more grateful than they were before they started watching, because we really just be hitting it consistent.
It's deep. Because even the weeks that you didn't hit it with grateful, I did. So it was like, and that wasn't intentional. It was just like something would happen that week where I was just like feeling more grateful than normal. And then every other time, like, you're just hitting it. So the first merch drop has to be something. There has to be. But I mean,
that's really like all I have to say this week, because like it's like the only word I can think of to describe where I'm at right now. It's just,
we're loving it.
Got to keep putting in the work.
And I mean, we got to be grateful for the numbers too from last week. Verholst popped off for the boys. Shout out Verholst. What a week we had on YouTube. What a fantastic week. And now we have Jumbo on the pod. Dude, there's so much to be grateful for. I'm just feeling good all the way around. Gratefulness. Jumbo, your first ever heart to heart. What do you think it's going to be?
I might have to also go and say grateful for my first one.
Let's go. Would there be any other way to really have your first heart to heart?
I mean, like, I know that like it's my first time, and you know, a lot of listeners may not know too much about me, but like, I've been at this like content creation stuff full time for like exactly about like just a year and a month now. I think I said that on the first time you brought me on the pod. And like 2024 has been absolutely unreal, from being like brought out to LAN to do work there. I've done already the amount of views I did in 2023. I've already done in 2024 and counting. So like I've already like, that's huge. I might double it because like,
huge,
you know,
congratulations.
6 months.
That's nuts.
Like, yeah, so like there's LAN, there's like, you know, also at LAN, not only did I get to meet so many cool people, like I had fans coming up to me and asking me to sign stuff. I didn't think I'd ever be in a place where I'm just a normal dude, like a nerd about Apex. Like, I don't think people are gonna come do that stuff. Like getting my videos showed up on screen, but then after like Wyatt and the boys, we hung out and just had like a great time the whole week, where like we just like connected, man. It was like this bro thing where then like when you asked me about like the pod, I was like, yeah, like, you know, I was not sure, but it was like, it was enticing. And then when I got back and I gave a bit of a thought, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I thought it'd be something that'd be so fun. So I'm even grateful that now you guys brought me on here to be the third. It's going to be exciting. So yeah, just a lot of like gratefulness around here too, because like everything's just been up and it's been a ton of fun. And I wouldn't even know what else to say other than just being really thankful for everything that's been so good this year.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, asking you to join the pod at LAN was completely unprompted. I hung out with you for like a day and I was like, he's got to be here. Like, I have to at least ask. If I don't at least ask, I'm going to feel stupid. So it was like I was just like, I'm just going to throw a shot in the dark. And I'm so happy we're here now, because this is great. I mean, sitting with you front row, watching the Bruins Leafs game while also watching Apex, you can't beat that. That's like a level, like, listen, Apex is great. Hockey to me has always been on another level, and to be able to do both in the front row, I know this guy for 24 hours, and we're hugging because the Leafs just scored in the front row, and then we're both depressed and sad a minute later when Boston scores right after. You know, you can't.
Yeah,
beat
for
that.
like full context for everyone, and like also for the audio listeners, I'll give you like try to really describe it. So my Leafs are in Game 7. I'm from Toronto, for everyone who wants to know. Like, I'm diehard here, and we have troubles with closing out Game 7s. We haven't done one in, I don't know, 20 years. And so anyways, yeah, we score, and it's luckily in between matches for the losers round 2 during LAN. And so like me and Wyatt jump up and we're dapping up, we're cheering. People are looking at us, not sure why we're cheering during the middle of the break and everything like that. And then finally, like, some guys in the front row, they're like, "Are you talking about the Bruins Leafs game?" We're like, "Yeah." They're like, "We're from Toronto." Yeah. Start dapping these guys up and everything like that. We sit down, we're fired up. We're 1-0 going into in the second period. 2 minutes later, Boston scores. Back to 0-0, basically. We're defeated. Go to OT. It was the most heartbreaking moment, at least of the last 2 years for me. Like, they just...
It was sad because, like, I wanted to feel your pain with you, and I have this weird dichotomy where it's just like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I was like, I want to be sad for my friend because the Leafs just lost, but I also want to maniacally laugh because the Leafs just lost again in Game 7. And I was like, I don't know what to do right now. I was just holding my hands up, like, what side do I pick? Luckily, I just picked. I was sad.
It was Wyatt's phone because like my service wouldn't work being down in like California, and like I just kind of slumped back in my seat as the second replay is happening. And Wyatt's like, you don't need to see that anymore. Let's put that away. You don't need to see that.
Shout out Burke the nerd for giving me a phone charger in the crowd.
Burke. Shout out Burke.
Shout out Burke the nerd. Okay, well, ladies and gents, this should be awesome moving forward. We're all excited, very excited. The Apex, the podcast, going to the moon. Cannot wait. We need some more voicemails from you guys. So throughout these match weeks, send anything in, whether it's a hot take, something crazy, or if you just have a thought about a team, how things are working, maybe a game that we didn't point out that you wanted to point out, or maybe a great play. Send in a voicemail. Let us know. It could be completely anonymous, totally up to you. And also join the Discord and follow us on all of our socials. Subscribe on YouTube. Ladies and gents, we will catch you guys next week for another episode of the Apex, the podcast. See ya.